Again, guys, hope everybody had an amazing weekend coming up on the Christmas holiday. I hope everybody's doing very, very well because today we've got some firepower in the house. We've got some people that have incredible experience, incredible knowledge, and we are going to have another Powerhouse Roundtable session with members of the Real Deal Video Strategist Club. I'm going to go around here in just a second to let them introduce themselves. But if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, let me go ahead and explain the format of what we're doing. Everybody that's on this panel, I have a very specific question for because they have different expertise and knowledge in different areas. And I have a very specific question for each of them. So I'll open up with the question. Then the questions will open up to the rest of the folks that are here in the Zoom room. After those questions have been asked, we're going to take questions from the audience. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, send your questions in for these folks, and we will try to get them answered as much as possible. So with that said, let me go ahead and introduce the panel of people that we have today. And I'll go around the horn. And you know what? This time we'll start with Mark because Mark's my right-hand man. Mark, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, brother?
What's up, guys? My name is Mark. I own a marketing agency in Rhode Island, and I co-created the Real Deal Video Strategist Club along with David. So I'm not here to answer any fancy questions. I'm just here to moderate. I'll let everyone else do the talking.
Mark will be listening in for those questions that you guys have. So put them in Facebook, put them in YouTube. We'll get them answered. So awesome. All right, let's go over to Joel. What's going on, Joel?
Hey, what's going on? My name is Joel. I'm with the Night Owl Group, co-founder of the Night Owl Group. We handle video production, but our main focus is digital marketing. Very excited to be here and being at the same table with some of these people, some of these powerhouse people. So I'm excited.
Awesome, brother. We're good to have you here. And you wouldn't be sitting here if you weren't powerhouse yourself, brother. So we appreciate you being here. Let's go over to Brad Preston. What's going on, brother?
What's up, guys? Brad Preston, out here in the sticks of New Hampshire. I run Loon Weddings, just as a photo video wedding company. And then I'm starting to scale and grow a production company, focusing a lot on like course creation content. And then, I dabble in some stuff here and there. Starting to get into product video, officially signed up with Austen Paul's course as of like a couple days ago. So go check that out.
Good stuff. Well, welcome, guys. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, just know that Brad currently holds the record for the biggest deal in our club. And I've got a question about that deal. So we're going to get to that. That was $120,000, Brad, if I remember right. $120,000 deal is the biggest deal that I'm aware of anyways from somebody in our club. So we'll talk about that here in a second. All right, let's go over to Scott, Mr. Scott Rippey.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Scott. I run Scott Michael Media, based out of North Carolina, video production and strategy. And yeah, just happy to be here, to be included. Very honored.
Of course. And guys, Scott has been with us since the very beginning. Pretty sure he was one of the first 10 members of the club. So that was like 18, 19 months ago. Scott's been with us since the very beginning. He's one of the first people that landed a long-term contract and a long-term deal with a client, something that we're all trying to achieve. And I have a question very specific about that very first deal that he landed. So we'll get to them here in just a second. All right, let's go over to Martha and Chantel. What's going on, ladies?
What's happening, everybody? This is Martha and my wife, Chantel. We run Garzon Media Group. We are a digital marketing agency. We've been with the Real Deal for a while already. I'm happy to be here. We're out of Fort Lauderdale.
We love David.
Well, I love you guys too. The reason that I have you guys on, and we're going to get into this question here in a little bit, but Martha and Chantel have really, really got their process down for setting weekly goals and filling up their sales pipeline. So they just have a stack of potential opportunities. And because of that, they're starting to turn some really, really big months. I'm going to talk to them about their process here in a little bit. So ladies, super excited that you guys are here. Okay, let's go over to Austen Paul. What's going on, brother?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Obviously, my name is Austen. And yeah, I run Austen Paul Productions. I also have productvideocourse.com, which is where I teach people how to do product videos. And yeah, that's pretty much it on my side. So
awesome. Well, welcome, dude. We're excited to have you here. Go ahead and in all the Facebooks and all that stuff, make sure to put your course, guys. And we're going to talk about Austen's course here in a little bit. If you're at all interested in product videos, This is an absolute must in the industry to check out. We'll go ahead and get started with this, guys. And Landon, by the way, should be joining us. Hopefully he'll join us whenever he's all freed up and can hop on. If not, then we'll go ahead and go with you guys and knock out this conversation. But like I said, each and every single one of you has experiences that I think will help other people. And I'm a true believer in the power of sharing knowledge and sharing experiences, because when you're able to do that, then other people can save time and kind of hit that trajectory that we're all trying to achieve, that you guys have already achieved. And it's always good to just help everybody out. So with that said, does anybody want to volunteer to go first? Anybody? Scott? Okay, Scott. Let's go with Scott. What's going on, Scott? How you doing, man? How's that black room?
I was like, why not? It's good. It's good. I'm enjoying it. Now I just got to do some product shooting in it using a lot of Austen's info.
Of course. Yeah. So guys, Scott, and what's cool is that obviously Scott was one of the first 10 members of our club, but he's also become a good friend. I mean, we went and did job together. He's been out to my wedding. We've had a chance to, hang out and, really get to know each other. So first of all, it's cool that we were able to build a relationship just from the club that got together, and now we have friendships. But with that said, Scott, he's been with us for a while. Scott, I want to talk to you about that very first deal that you closed, which was the biggest deal on record for our club for quite some time. Can you go ahead and talk about like what was going on in your production company prior to that, and then how that came about and what it's meant for your business going forward since you landed that client?
Sure. Yeah. I believe that was last spring, summer, like not too long after the course launched when I found it. Somewhere in there. But yeah, so before I found the course and everything, I was just kind of out there. I recently moved here from Michigan, so kind of had to start over with clientele. I'd only been doing it for a year full time, or less than a year full time, only doing it for about a year and a couple of months. And was just kind of doing one-off videos a lot, just it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know. And didn't have any idea about strategies or multiple videos or how to do a discovery. I didn't have a process. It was kind of just meeting people. I'm good at networking. I was meeting people and doing some videos here and there, but, didn't really have a process. It was just kind of shooting the breeze kind of a thing. And finding your course was a good opportunity. The timing was perfect because I met these two guys that own several businesses, and we actually have contracts for 2 of the 3 and about to do a third now. So they've grown into easily my largest client. But they had a property management company, and they were looking for somebody long term, but were really interested in strategies. It kind of just happened. I got lucky because if I hadn't found your course, I would have been floundering just because I didn't know what I didn't know what I didn't know. So that came along at the exact right time. I landed that deal 2 weeks into the course. Like, it was literally, I was binging and it really helped me. I just learned a lot about how to do discoveries and trying to help the client, and took the pressure off too, because I didn't feel like I was selling. It was kind of like, I'm trying to learn about their business, and it's kind of a natural flow. And yeah, that's kind of long and short of it without being too rambly.
Okay, cool. So that was kind of an intro to what my question is. So my question is this: since you landed that, I believe you're still working with these guys, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. A lot of the members of our club are starting to get to that point where they're starting to land these deals, but not as many of them have actually worked these deals through to completion, where they've created 5, 10, 15 videos. So my question is, how are you able to manage that? Once you landed the deal, how are you able to manage that? And how are you able to utilize that relationship to really set yourself up for even bigger success with other clients over a period of time? Like, what has that meant for your business that you've had this solid contract for the last however many months?
Sure. A little bit to unpack there. Well, so being able to handle everything that we went in, that we laid out that we were going to do. This was an 18-month contract, by the way. It should have been a year. They want to do 18 months. We're going to start doing yearly now just because it's easier. They're a long-term. They want to keep doing it every year and with more than one business. But so the initial one was 18. So we're past a year. Like, we've got like 3 months left on that, I think. So we've gone through most of the content, like you were saying, and and they had a lot. So with them, yeah, we had some ads, we had some, the brand message videos, we had testimonials, but we also had, and this is something that's super important, is we had a lot of content. They want to be leaders in their field, and so we had a lot of monthly content that we came up with and learned how to pivot on a few things. So it was really helpful to go through this with them. It all went fairly smooth with all the planning we did, the pre-planning, but we learned a few things. We pivoted a few times on what kind of content. One thing we stuck with, another thing we said, well, we're not gonna do that anymore, let's do this instead. But then just learning how to spread all that out over the course of the contract. They knew, and we set expectations like, all right, what are the most important videos to get done first, then second? Okay, in month 2 or 3, we're going to start doing the monthly content at the same time. Trying to manage your time correctly to where we're trying to shoot as much as possible at once, so we're not doing a crazy amount of production days, because if you want to add on other contracted clients and you don't want to be spread so thin that you're just doing all these production days, you got to try to pack the most value in. And so we shoot 3 months of content at a time for a lot of this stuff, for the monthly stuff, and we'd have monthly and weekly snippets and things like that. So I don't know if that's really answering everything, but it pretty much just really learned a lot about how to manage time, how to get things done for them, how to pivot a little bit, communicate with the client, and set correct expectations. And we've hit everything that we want to do. So it's been a good experience.
Yeah, I think a lot of times as creatives, especially when we're trying to land these bigger deals, is there's almost that fear of landing that big deal. Like once I've landed that, then it's like, oh crap, I actually have to do what I said that I was going to do, and it's bigger than I've ever done before. So that can be very scary. And that's why I wanted to, obviously ask you these questions, because a lot of our members are getting to that point where they're going to start landing these deals, and now they actually have to do that. So if you're watching and you have a question about actually producing, executing a big deal, send them in for Scott. We're going to start answering questions from the audience here in just a second. I do want to open it up to the panel on the Zoom room for anybody that has questions for Scott. Anybody got some?
I got one. Can you walk us through a little bit about what the project was that you're working on for 18 months? Like what type of client was this?
Sure. It's a property management company. So they get investors basically that own usually multiple properties. It can be a single, home that they own, but a lot of people that own, multiple properties. And so they come in and they manage the property end to end. And they're looking to be, and they're doing really well at this. They're looking to be the leader in this area. So they handle everything from, finding tenants and putting them in, into the homes, to the contracts, the agreements, the handling the payments, maintenance. They've got their own maintenance team, plus they have third parties. So it's kind of like a end-to-end property management company for people that own multiple properties, and they do more than just residential, but that's a big part of it.
So they sound pretty sizable. I mean, how did you what did you specifically do to get your foot in the door for something that big?
This is always funny. My thing, David always laughs at me about this. I'm a beer fan. I tend to frequent a lot of tap rooms and breweries, and honestly, I'm out there and I just kind of talk to people, and a tap room that I did some beer commercials for, just for some new stuff they had coming in. They started plugging me into other people they knew, and you just start, snowballs. You start meeting people, and these were just 2 guys that they frequented in the tap room. One of the owners of the tap room said, hey, they were looking for somebody for videos. Like, hey, talk to Scott, and we hung out and had a beer just to talk first, and see if we liked each other and we're a good fit. And then from there, we set a discovery, and then I moved through that thing pretty fast. I know David remembers, it went fast.
Step 1, drink beer.
Exactly right. Drink more beer. That's how you land more clients, right? You loosen things up and get them going. No, I remember that I think you ended up telling me, hey man, I have this opportunity, and this is what's going on. And then no sooner did you tell me that, it was like you guys are moving forward with something. So I guess the point being is that 1, you got to put yourself out there, right? No matter how that is, if you're putting yourself out there, and 2, once you're prepared for that opportunity, when that opportunity knocks on your door, I think that's where a lot of us just miss, right? Because we're not prepared to take advantage of that opportunity. Scott happened to be prepared because he was, obviously studying and preparing himself. So when it came to his doorstep, he was able to close that. But yeah, just the fact that he was out there having conversations and ready to take on that project is huge. What other questions we got? You don't let him get off the hot seat.
I've got one, man. So you were kind of touching on it, Scott, being able to, signing a deal is one thing. And David, you mentioned this too. Signing a deal is one thing, and starting to execute. But man, I tell you what, some of our 12-month contracts, it's hard to constantly have a creative mind to come up with new ideas, even with, our team executing the ad strategies as well. We have an idea of what it should look like from a marketing perspective. We have the idea of what it should look like from a video perspective, but sometimes the creativity behind getting something new for a familiar client when you're 12 months in, what is that creative inspiration look like for you?
No, that's a good question, because we're about to sit down. We've got to kind of come up with the next year's plan for the property management. Now, one of the other companies is a Remax office, and we just started that one maybe 3 or 4 months ago. So we're still executing the first year, and we've got plenty to do there. But with the Remax office, they've got a lot of. I'm kind of lucky too with this particular client that I've done a lot of work with. These guys have a lot of ideas, but we've run into the same thing too, where they're like, we're talking about their mortgage office or some property stuff, and we're just like, kind of like when we had to pivot, we're like, man, we're running out of ideas. Like, we were doing this video series for tips for renters, and then we were like, well, we can only do so many of these, because a big thing, I didn't really touch on this, but I really like trying to come up with video content that companies can use to position themselves to be a leader, and it brands them, and they're providing value, which attracts people, right? I mean, when you're providing value, you're not making people pay for everything. So they're really good at realizing that. But it's been a challenge sometimes, because we know that there's only so many things they can talk about. So that one is kind of one where, I probably have to get back to you on that, because I'm going to have to go through that in a couple of months. We're going to have to figure out, what's the next round in creativity, because we've kind of, the first round was easy. The second round, I think, is always going to be harder, where you're like, okay, do we keep some things the same, but we need some fresh ideas. We need to do something different, not just keep maybe the same format, even if it's the same kind of video. You want to do something fresh for your client every year. You don't want to just keep putting out the same kind of thing, and it looks the same and sounds the same. So
Scott, let's have a conversation about that one-off when you get a chance. I'm going through the same thing right now. My client, we extended, we're going to go to 40 months now, right? So I'm at like 28 months as it is. So how do you figure out what to continue to create? But the biggest thing there is just to continue to have that conversation with, like, an ongoing discovery. They're always going to have different challenges popping up. So figure out what that challenge is, what that pain point is, and create based off of that. We had that big old discussion with my client, and it was like, okay, well, all this stuff is new that you guys are challenged with because of COVID, because of supplier demands, because of all this stuff. Like, there's new challenges that we have to face. How do we make videos to face these that we didn't have 28 months ago? So I think that's the biggest thing that you're going to run into. But we can have a conversation about that after.
Yeah.
I believe we have some questions coming in from Facebook, right?
Yep, we got a bunch.
Awesome.
So this one's gotten some good traction. This is from Pete in our paid group. He says, Scott, how did you space out what videos you did first, and how long would they take? Did your client ever ask you time-wise how long, for example, a brand message video would take you to create?
Yeah, so from the very beginning, I've always had a pretty good idea. Great question too, Pete. I've always had a good idea about how long it takes me to create certain types of videos, in general, because in my mind, it's like, all right, we've got to plan them, and I definitely account for that kind of time, because the more you plan, the smoother it's going to go. But then we should all know how long production days take for different sorts of things, and editing, I know how fast I could turn something around. So I set those expectations very early. We talked about the entire strategy. We knew that we didn't start the monthly content until a month or two in, because we knew up front we had some heavy lifting to get done, because we wanted to get the brand message in place, and testimonials in place where they needed to be, those more static assets. So it was really just planning, knowing how to manage your time, how long things take you, and be upfront with the client in the very beginning. Try to plan that out. Like, I really try to be organized, where, like, we had the whole 18 months planned out, and I knew how we were going to do it, and we pretty much stayed to the schedule. A couple of times we had to pivot or push something, but it was because of a mutual thing where, like, they didn't have time. It wasn't me, which is good. You don't want it to be you. You want it to be, hey, you can accommodate your client if they're busy, or we need to move something around, but definitely, you don't want to be the reason for that. I don't know if that answered it, but.
Yep, here's another good question. Did they have a set number of videos in mind, or did you do some selling to add in the extra videos to up that price?
They had great question. They had no set idea. Basically, they just knew they needed video content, and we just started the conversation. Like, I did the discovery. I mean, they had no preconceived numbers. We just did the discovery, and then I had an idea about some videos I already wanted to do, and then based on discovery, I added more, and then just came up with the entire concept and went over that in the sales meeting. So yeah, they had zero expectations really. They didn't know. They just knew they wanted video and really wanted to get out there and be a leader and produce content. So
that's what the discovery and sales process is all about. They are counting on you to be the expert in that area because they manage properties. That's what they do.
Yep.
They're not video strategists. They're expecting you to be the video strategist. And that's where, like, if you can put that plan on the table and say, hey, listen, we need 25 videos and really explain to them why and how those are going to be used, it's going to separate you from everybody else. So Scott was able to do that, which is awesome. Brad, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did actually. So do you know if they had tried any previous video strategies in the past, or like even if it was just them creating the videos themselves? Because I feel like I've had a lot of traction with that when I'm talking with new clients and new projects. They're like, well, we've tried video in the past, but it didn't work. And it's because like they did a video on their phone and posted it on their own Facebook without any, paid growth or anything like that, and no strategy behind it. So did you have to like kind of battle any preset expectations or fears that they essentially had?
I did not have to battle them on that with this, but it's funny you mentioned that because they'd already kind of learned their lesson, and something David said too. It's about they don't have time. That they don't have time. They've got all these businesses, and they tried to do some of their own video, and they were using cell phones, and they were trying to, like, one of the guys actually could learn it if he wanted to. Him and I talk, geek talk a lot. It's nice to have a customer that kind of understands it, but he's like, I don't have time. He's like, we were doing it. We realized we don't have the gear to make it look the way we want. We don't have the time to do this. And that's a big reason why they started looking, was they couldn't do it on their own. And they realized that on their own, which I was lucky that I didn't have to, battle that, but.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think Alston in the last roundtable said it best, where he's like, video is kind of like the cheapest employee you can have.
Yep.
A lot of times. Yep. We got more questions from Facebook. I see Martha. I'm gonna get to you next, Martha, but I think we had a bunch coming in from Facebook.
Here's a question from the free group. Scott, how do you work your way up to a number like 45K? What are you doing to convince them that that number is justified?
Good. That's a deep question to unpack. So I know we talk about value-based pricing and ROI and a lot of that kind of stuff. I mean, it is a challenge, I think, for a lot of people to figure out. I mean, I personally, before I even approach them, how I'm figuring out what the price is, I start with a baseline of just, how long is this going to take me at my rates that I don't necessarily share? It's just, what is this worth to me? And that's my baseline. And that's usually not what I go with. It's just, then I take a look at their, what can the return on investment, whether it's a product or a client or whatever, so for this property management company, if they get one home, it's $1,000 they'll make in a year off of it. Well, they usually can find investors with multiple properties. So it was really just 45 homes would pay that off in a year. So you kind of look at it that way if you can get those numbers, and that was an easy sell. That deal was actually $62K. I don't know if people remember this. And the two main owners of this particular company didn't bat an eye, and neither did the third. It was the fourth. I actually went down. We took a few things out. I went down and made sure it was still manageable, and made it 45 instead of 62. So if it wasn't for the one, it was his only baby. So he couldn't be convinced. We had to kind of wiggle some stuff there, but.
Good question. Okay, let's take one question from Martha, and then we'll move on to the next person on the panel here. Also, guys, I'm sure everybody's gonna have a lot of questions in the Facebook group. So everybody here on the panel, if after the meeting, if you have time to go and answer some of these questions that we don't get to, that'd be awesome. But let's go over to Martha and Chantel. What questions you guys got?
So quickly, how do you monitor the results? And are you monitoring them or are they doing it?
Well, so that's a little bit of a loaded question, because there's specific results from ads, and for them, actually, probably a good thing to talk about. For them, we stopped running ads because anything related to real estate right now, it just wasn't worth it for them because of getting flagged and things that shouldn't have been flagged were, and there was no help for it really, especially with Facebook. But there's somebody we've had this conversation of, running ads is one small piece of the pie. So, some of the other things aren't as tangible to track. So we're talking about having all the other assets in place, doing the monthly content, becoming a leader. We're doing a podcast as well that kind of ties into all three businesses. Like, they're just out there with all this video content. Well, they're coming to me saying, people are coming up to us now going, how are you doing all this content? and people are loving it, and people like they're getting that kind of feedback, so they know that it's working. And so not everything has to be tracked by a specific number. I mean, ads, yes, but that's a small piece of the pie for brand recognition, providing value, becoming a leader. There's a lot of stuff where it's tangible. It's kind of intangible, but you can see it happening, and it's a slow growth. So they get that. It's also a good thing to explain to your clients if they don't understand that.
Really good question. Hey, I saw one more question. I got to ask it because it's from Jason JC.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He said, what kind of beers are you drinking with your clients to get them to say yes? And are you paying for them or they?
I usually so I'll pay for the beers if we're actually having like a little bit of a meeting, like we did an impromptu meeting. I paid for the beers. We drink usually they're IPA drinkers. I'm usually an IPA drinker. We weren't in the cold season for stouts yet, so
nice, good stuff. Well, Scott, obviously congratulations on that deal. I think you being able to land that and set yourself up and start bringing on other clients has been huge. And that information is big time. So guys, go search for Scott in the group and go back to that post from, I don't know, 12, 13 months ago or whatever it was. But yeah,
the Spark's on it. Yeah.
The Spark presentation's there. So if you guys are wondering like, how the heck did you present this to get them to say yes, it's there. And I'm sure you can learn a lot from it because Scott's already lived it. He's already proved that it's doable. So Scott, thanks for being here, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
Of course. All right, let's go over to Joel. What's going on, man?
What's up, David? How are we doing?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit more about like the video side and the marketing side. Why don't you go to do that first, and then I'll ask my question so that everybody understands the context of my question here.
Yeah, for sure. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a co-founder of a company called the Night Owl Group. It's kind of our umbrella, if you will. We kind of separated into two different organizations, Night Owl Productions and Night Owl Marketing. Night Owl Productions is kind of my baby. It's where I come, a lot of my background, doing live events, broadcasting, video production, for almost 12 to 15 years ish. So that's a big part of my background, but I've been doing social media management and marketing on and off for a lot of nonprofit organizations, specifically over the past 5 to 7 years. And then I linked up with my business partner, Nicholas, who has over 10 years or so of digital marketing with his own business and a lot of blue collar background. And so he and I linked up, and that's where the Night Owl Group kind of came from. We are based out of Detroit, about 20 minutes west of the city. But yeah, that's a little bit of background on us.
Okay. So the reason I wanted you to explain is one, so that everybody who's watching understands that you really do have a background in filming. You've used your camera for a long time. You're an expert at what you do, but you've also understood that there's incredible importance in partnering with, for your own business, somebody who does marketing. So here's my question to you. From a video standpoint, from the standpoint of 95% of the people in our club, why is it important to have a good relationship with a digital marketer, whether you partner with them or you collaborate with them or you refer business back and forth? Why is that important? And what is it going to do to help a video business when you have that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, from a video perspective, it is 100% make or break. I'll contrast a couple projects I've worked on. So we worked with a local fighter out of Detroit, just north of Detroit, and he's opening up a club, Black Bottom Athletic Club, inside of Detroit downtown. Ramsey he's an incredible MMA fighter, but he's a lot of boxing background. We had the DP I worked with on that is renowned, especially in Detroit, incredible documentary filmmaker. We used, extremely expensive equipment. An RE setup that was over 70 grand. Just the camera rig alone was over 70 grand. And we produced a killer promo, 45-second promo for him. Had some great people work on it. And the organic reach on it just seemed to fall flat. And it was like, how is that possible? We had these incredible people working on it. The reaches, we know the circles, and it just didn't go anywhere. Contrast that to some of the stuff we filmed for one of our kickboxing gyms on a Sony A7 III at the time, and with the right marketing behind it, put it in front of the right people, we saw numbers that were 15 and 20 times what we saw with the other content, and the content was subpar. I mean, you're talking about, for the camera geeks out there, you're talking about 8-bit 420 out of an A7 III compared to the RE Alexa, which is, obviously the specs are way better. So the getting in front of the right people, and to me, just it makes or break whether or not the video is going to be successful. Unless you have some sort of backing from cinema or whatever it is that is super recognizable, and that organically you're going to get in front of tens of thousands of people. Marketing, the digital marketing side and the paid boosts is absolutely key.
I say it all the time. Like, it sucks. It's the worst thing in the world if you make an amazing video and nobody watches it and it doesn't get any results, especially if you're making that amazing video for a client. And I always say that the accuracy, consistency, and scale at which you provide that information, that video, to your target audience is really going to impact how well that video does. So for those of you guys who are watching, if you don't currently have a relationship with a digital marketer, go find yourself a relationship with a really good digital marketer, because then you're going to be able to have that confidence in knowing that when you make that awesome video, when you spend all these hours of your life, that digital marketer is going to make sure that your audience sees that and your client's audience sees that. It's crucial. There's nothing worse than having a video that doesn't get any traction. Awesome. That's the question that I had for you. So for the folks that are on the panel, what questions do you guys have for Joel about either video or his digital marketing experience with his partner? Anybody? I got questions. I'll ask questions all day. What about from the Facebook group? If you have questions, send them in for Joel.
Yep, we got a good question from Denise. She says, what kinds of questions should we be asking when interviewing digital marketers to see if they'd be a good fit for partnering with us? It's a great question.
It is a great question, and it's one that we get all the time. A big part for us, some of the first questions we ask is, one, have you worked with a digital marketer in the past? If we're looking at potentially connecting with a client and providing marketing services, have you done this in the past, and what was your experience? This question usually is the gateway to unlocking any previous issues that they've had with digital marketers, especially if you're going into a meeting knowing that there's hesitancy there with paying for marketing services. This is a good kind of slow pitch to figure out, what kind of issues did they have in the past, and was it something that, and you can tell from a marketing perspective, if you're experienced enough, whether or not it was the marketer's fault, or whether it was the content's fault, or was it the product's fault? Because that's a big part of it too. A lot of our questions is, okay, if we bring you these clients and we're able to generate leads for you, are they actually going to want to buy your product? Is it a good product? For a lot of, big thing right now is people have a hard time finding a workforce. We're working on a lot of recruitment strategies right now. And it's one of our main questions for recruitment strategies. If I can bring you people, that's fine, but are you paying a competitive wage? Are they going to want to come and work for you? Are they going to want to stay for you? Do you offer benefits? Like, those are big parts of, kind of what we're asking. So the biggest thing is, again, have you worked with someone in the past, and what was your experience? And that kind of opens the doorway. From there, a big part of it is, what are you looking to accomplish with a marketing strategy? That's going to set the tone for what kind of campaign are you going to run. And I should note too that even before we ask these questions, before we're even on a discovery call with these people, Nick and I both go through extensively all of the online presence. We probably spend, depending on how big the client is, probably 5 to 10 hours each going through each client online and trying to pick apart exactly how many, like what their social presence looks like, how many times do they post, what was their frequency of posting in 2019 before the pandemic, and what did their business look like now going into pandemic, what does it look like? Now on this side of the pandemic, what does it look like? Engagements from what we can see on the outside, Facebook ad library, are they running ads currently? Things like that. And a lot of the times we will try to get into their ClickFunnel by going through their Facebook and their Instagram. If they're running ads, we'll click on their links, we'll get to their website, we'll put information in on their website. Am I going to be retargeted? What does that look like? Driving as much information as we can going into that meeting, so we have all the ammo we can to say like, hey, I'm a perfect prime candidate for your product, but I saw your content, I put in my information, I didn't hear from anybody. That's a big problem. Like that's probably why you're not converting any leads right now. So those are some of the basic stuff, and then obviously you're gonna dive into what exactly do you want managed, what's your budget look like, things like that.
Good question. Awesome. What else we got? Anybody on the panel have questions, or we got any more from Facebook?
Yep, we got one on Facebook. This is a good one. What are some of the top skills to look for in a digital marketer? So if a videographer wants to partner with a marketer, what should they be looking for?
For me, a big thing is always whether or not the marketer is personable. If he can't hold his own conversation, I think that's a problem for me. I think that's more of a personal thing. Self-awareness is a big thing for me, being able to have a conversation without being weird or awkward. So I think that's a big one. But I think that someone who is able to showcase results in the industry you're looking to partner with them on. We tell, people inside of the group too will come to us and say like, hey, I've got a client that's in this industry. Be like, okay, I'm happy to meet with them and see if we can help them. But maybe this isn't an industry that we've worked in before. So I'm going to let you know that up front. I'm going to let them know that up front, and that we don't really have any comparable results to show them. And then that's a risk that they would be taking if we, continue to move forward into a contract. I would say find someone who's very, very transparent. That's a big thing for Nick and I, is being extremely transparent with a marketer and saying like, if I don't think I can help your business, like I'm not going to try to go into a contract with you. And it kind of sucks because sometimes these contracts are $8,000 and $10,000 a month, and they've got the ad spent and they've got the money and it's there, and it's like, oh, this is a really good profit. But if it's not the right fit, it's not the right fit. David, we talked about a while back with a cannabis company that we went in with and signed a contract with. It was $65,000 a year for us to create some content each month, which is where I spent hours upon hours watching Austen Paul's product videos, trying to figure out how the hell I'm going to shoot cannabis and their products, and went out and bought a bunch of TVs for some cool backgrounds and stuff. But from a marketing perspective, cannabis industry is really, really hard to market digitally because you get flagged in so many different ways, which is why you see a lot of cannabis billboards. But going into that, this was something we told them, hey, we're new in this industry, but we feel like we can help. We got about 3 to 4 weeks into that contract, and we ended up ending the contract because it was not the right fit. And there was a lot of reasons for that, but you just have to have someone that's going to be transparent, that's going to be personal, and that can hold a conversation. I think those are the biggest things.
Yeah, and one thing I'd add too, remember, if you're going to partner with someone, their performance can reflect on you. So ask them for case studies, make sure you do your due diligence, and then ask them for references and call those references. Because if you hear directly from a handful of people they're working with that they're awesome, that's great. If you call people or they're like, oh, we don't have anyone that you can call, then that's a red flag. And if the people are like, no, they suck, then there's your answer.
Yeah. Who asked that question, Mark? That was a really good question.
I don't even remember.
Okay. Well, here's my 2 cents on that, guys. And he's right. So what I suggest is find yourself a bunch of digital marketers that you can really get good relationships with, because your reputation is on the line. Like if you were to partner with Joel, right? It does good and Joel no good if you guys bring on a bad contract and Joel's not a good fit for it, and it doesn't go anywhere, and both of you start to build the reputation of not being able to get results. It makes much more sense for you to take that cannabis thing and go to somebody else who actually knows how to market that, and then have a reputation of getting results so that you can bring more collaboration to you and Joel. And I think that's why he's saying, being clear about and transparent about whether or not they're a good fit or not. That's a question you have to ask. 100%. So I'm glad that that question was asked from the audience because it's really, really good. Martha, you got a question?
Quick question. Does your pricing or does the size of the company influence your pricing?
It can, but not by much. More so, the biggest thing we take a look at is, Nick and I have a good idea of what our profit margin needs to be. So we take a look and say, okay, how many hours is this going to take? Then we're both big on Rich Dad Poor Dad, paying yourself first, understanding that model. So making sure that our hourly rates are covered as far as the marketing perspective goes. If we contract with other marketers that work on our team and help with our clients. So that's a big thing that we do is if there's an industry we don't know, we try to contract with another freelance, maybe marketing agent that we've worked with or that we have good reputation with to kind of help handle that campaign as we learn. That way we have an expert in that field as we're learning and becoming experts in that field. Making sure obviously all the costs are covered and then our profit margin is covered and then go from there. But for the most part, I mean, it really doesn't fluctuate too much. It just depends on the hours going into it.
Good question. Let's take one more from Facebook if we have one.
Sure, it's from the free group. Have you ever been in a situation where the digital marketer did not perform as they promised? If so, how should we handle that?
I think the first red flag is the digital marketer promising. If you're promising ROI, if your digital marketer is promising ROI or promising a certain amount of leads or whatever, I think that could be a potential red flag. If it's an expert in that area and they've been doing something for years, I think that there's confidence in that. And, you should take that with a grain of salt. But as digital marketers, we never promise a certain ROI. We never promise a certain amount of leads, which is why we always leave an out in our contracts. Even our 12-month contracts have an out after usually around 90 to 120 days. That if something's not working right or whatever, that the client can end the contract with a 45-day notice or a 30-day notice, depending on the terms. Just because sometimes you get into it and there is something there that you didn't know about. Again, if you're doing a recruitment strategy and they don't pay well and you didn't realize that at the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's well, no wonder why you can't get anybody on your team is because you don't pay well, and that's something out of my control. So I think that's part of it. Yeah. I'll stop there.
Awesome. Good question. Guys, if we didn't get to your question in the Facebook group, put them in there. If Joel has time to go back later on, he's actually on vacation right now. So Joel, don't feel like you have to, but if you're able to and answer more questions, that'd be awesome.
If I could, David, I would say one more thing.
Go for
it. I watched David's webinar about the Real Deal Club before he officially launched it, about the closing that you did with the home builder and how you pitched the trifecta and the marketing strategy behind it. And that 100% was the eye opener for me. And literally that next week, I had a pitch with a kickboxing company, and I went through that Zoom, I think probably 3 times, and damn near plagiarized the whole pitch that you had and the structure. And I went to that meeting, and at that time, did not know nearly as much as I do about digital marketing. Nick didn't even say yes at the time, but I pitched them the marketing strategy, the 12-month contract, the BMV and everything. And they went for it and ended up signing a $34,000 12-month deal. So if I can say the proof is in the pudding, it's there. And I appreciate you, David, more than you know.
No, I appreciate that, man. And yeah, I'm going to update that because we actually just extended the contract. So we're going to go a whole nother year. So we're going to go to 40 months and they'll be at a $400,000 client at this point. So extend that contract. So I'm going to update that. Some insight about, being in a contract that long and stuff like Scott's going to face, which is what do we create now? And how do you land these type of projects? So rest assured that everybody's watching. I will probably do a training on that before the end of the year. Just keep an eye out for that and I will announce it. But I'm glad that worked, dude. That's awesome. And keep selling them. And it's repeatable. You can do it over and over and over again, which is awesome. But Joel, thanks for offering your expertise. If you're watching and you're in the part of the paid group, if you need to collaborate with somebody that does digital marketing, reach out to Joel and his partner and have a conversation and get to know them, right? Okay, awesome. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Martha, then we're going to go to Austen, then we're going to go to Brad. We're going to leave Brad's biggest deal to the end because he's got the biggest deal. He's the king of the deals right now. So let's go over to Martha and Chantel. What's going on, ladies? How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
We're great. This is wonderful. You invite us to come on, talk on this, and we learn all this good stuff. So absolutely great.
I'm sitting here learning as well, which is the cool part. Okay, so let me kind of introduce Martha and Chantel. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves a little bit more. Ladies have been in the club for maybe a year now.
About a year, yeah.
Okay, so Martha and Chantel are really, really good at setting these big, giant stretch goals where I'm like, are you guys sure you guys want to try to do that? Because it sounds like a lot, but somehow they get a process done that allows them to finish those goals. And because of that, they are stacking their pipeline with a lot of warm and hot leads. And during our our accountability calls, I'm always impressed by this. So before we get into my question about that, ladies, why don't you guys go and introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do, all that good stuff.
You want to start?
So we have a small video marketing company here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Originally from Colombia. I have a background in graphic design. And
I have lived in Fort Lauderdale area for about 12 years. I actually spent the majority of my life in corporate America, in corporate marketing organizations, and just decided I got tired of making other people rich.
We're going to make ourselves rich now.
Exactly.
That's the idea, right? That's good stuff. Okay, here is my question for you ladies. How do you guys go about setting goals that are stretch goals that are actually realistic? And how do you go about accomplishing those? I got a two-part question. So how do you set those goals and how do you go about your process to accomplish those? And then I'll ask you the next question after that.
So my biggest eye opener was when you started using the, I don't remember the name of that software, but you basically helped me start building a spreadsheet. And when I saw what was happening, I became accountable, I became responsible, I became realistic. I was like, okay, these are the hot leads, these are the cold leads, these are the ones that froze. I'm not going to pay attention to this. But when you see it on paper, all of a sudden it all makes sense. I should be paying attention to these people here. These people are not going to, do anything. Okay, this is what's happening in November. This is what's going to happen in December. So, basically seeing your plan on paper and seeing where you're going. That's what did it for me. And every Wednesday I knew that, yeah, there you go. That's the one vibe. Every Wednesday I knew that I had to be accountable to that and I had to be realistic. We started networking big time. We started with the Chamber of Commerce, and then that led to the Tower Club, which is a business club, and then that led to a whole bunch of other networking organizations. And there's some that work, some that don't work, and just basically seeing it on paper.
Yeah, and prior to that, just to lead up to when that was going on, one of the things that we were also doing is I was transitioning from working part-time on a consulting gig to going into the business full-time. So I took a very pragmatic approach to it. I just basically said, what are our bills? How much do we have to make to meet our monthly nut? And, ironically, the big motivator, we've got a mortgage. We've got a mortgage, we've got a bill. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, it's no longer working for knowing that you're going to have a consistent paycheck. It's like, you got to get out there, you got to press the flesh, you got to start meeting people. So I knew what the dollar amount was that we needed in order to meet that monthly obligation. And then at the same time, she was working with you with the accountability sessions. Mm-hmm. So that sort of jived together, because we would sit down and we said, well, how close are we to our being able to clear it versus, making a profit on top of that?
right now we're trying to come up with programs, small, medium, and large programs that, you know, we're like, okay, if we come up with this program that's gonna cost 5,000, let's look for 10 people that we could sell it to. So right there, you know, we could count on 50,000. So we're trying to come up with.
So basically the idea is, and it was something I was doing when I was on the product side in software and hardware, was selling services. Again, is it's sort of nebulous, but if you take a product approach to it, you productize your services, it's much easier for the customer to understand. If you say, okay, you get, you know, we're going to sell you this service, it's going to cost X amount of dollars and you're going to get A, B, and C, they get that, as opposed to being a little bit more nebulous about it.
Yeah, it's like you always say, finding a need and then pitch into that need.
Good. I hope you guys don't mind, but I pulled
No,
up
not at all.
Okay. Are you guys able to see the screen?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. So everybody that's watching and everybody that's on the panel, this is what we go through in our accountability sessions, and we're going to start these back up at the beginning of the year. But really what we look at is your sales pipeline, right?
Mhm.
Where are you currently at for the month with your goals, right? So on the left-hand side, you'll see that they have goals of $6,000. The last time that we did this in September, they had a goal of $6,000. They were already at $17,000 by the 15th of the month, and that's in closed revenue, right? They had a goal of 8 clients, but they far surpassed their revenue goal with just 4 clients. In the middle, where you see leads, all those hot leads and all those warm leads are a product of their weekly goals. So on the bottom right-hand corner, every week I'd say, all right, ladies, what is your goal? What are you guys going to do? And every week they'd have a list of like 10 or 15 things that they said they were going to do. And I'd be like, you guys, that's a lot of stuff to fit into one week. Are you sure you're going to be able to do all of that? And they're like, we got it. We're going to do it. And every week we'd come back and I'd say, okay, did you get all this stuff done? And they would say, it's all done. We got it all done. And because of that, they started to see leads all over the place. So, and I'm sorry, I was kind of half paying attention to you guys, half paying attention, trying to figure out where your board was here. But the leads that you guys were able to generate and the sales pipeline that you were able to generate, how has that helped your business to be able to actually land deals?
But it is landing deals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, the deal may not be landed, but it's because it's there and because we're tracking it, you know, it becomes real.
Yeah.
So,
and some of this, you know, leads that we had, they didn't pan out. A lot of other ones panned out. It's just, you know, learning from putting this stuff on paper and going and making phone calls and realizing where is your time best spent with this person. And then, you know, we had a few people that, you know, one person didn't pay and we learned our lesson. We had a lawyer that was a client of ours and, you know, we went through the whole process and we learned, okay, well, do we chase this that is bothering me or do I let it go and then learn a lesson? So, I mean, that month that you're showing, that was like the first and the biggest month so far. And we've gotten a couple of clients that are now regular clients. So it's just a matter of.
Right. And we're talking more about retainers and for next year. And we've got a bunch of stuff that's going to pop in January. So we're using this time, again, the holidays, to look at our process. And it's reiterative. I mean, it really is. It's like we'll go through and we'll go to a networking event or several networking events and we get a bunch of leads and we put them in and we start tracking them. So
it really changed my mind, the things that you said, because I used to think small and, you know, to go and pitch someone something for the year, I'd be like, oh my God. And I was looking at what I can afford, what someone, you know, like me could afford. And it was stupid because I used to teach tennis and I couldn't afford my prices. So why would I be thinking the same way? So so all of a sudden it changed. I'm you know, going after a need that someone has that costs money. So
good.
And that's where we were sort of diametrically in different areas, because she was coming from one end and I was coming from being in corporate marketing organizations where I saw the budget and I know how much they're willing to spend. And it's like, $16,000 a month for these folks. Yeah, no problem. Go ahead. So I knew, and I know that those organizations and those departments are out there. Now it's just a matter of finding those and being able to target those individuals within those organizations.
Beautiful. I love it. Everybody that's watching, and I hope you guys can see my screen. Okay. This is what your sales pipeline should look like. And this is what these ladies were able to achieve, because too many of us, what happens is we spend so much time trying to land a client. Once we finally land a client, we put all of our focus on that one client that we completely abandon our sales process. And once that client's video is filmed, and once you're done completing what you're going to do with that client, you have nothing to come back to. Your sales pipeline should always be full of hot and warm leads, and you should always be landing more deals. That way you don't have that roller coaster effect that so many creative people do. And that's why I brought these ladies onto this call with us. So let's go ahead and open the questions to the panel. And then if you have questions on the Facebook or YouTube, go ahead and start sending those in. And we could talk about these ladies' process for really building up a stacked sales pipeline. Who's got questions on the panel? Brad, go ahead.
This is actually less of a question, just more of a statement. Just seeing your guys' pipeline has made me realize how much that I'm actually slipping up on this myself. Having just closed the big deal that I did, it's taken me about 4 months to actually focus on, okay, I can probably take on more business now. I've got things moving. Things are going in the right direction with this place. Now I can kind of open my attention and take in some other meetings this day and that day, and maybe even possibly take on 2-3 more clients every month that are retainer based. So even when you get a really big deal, like it's in the grand scheme of things, it's not enough to just abandon the sales pipeline, because that could easily fall through, or you're never going to continue to grow. So yeah.
More of a statement, I guess. A lesson, because some of the big ones did not go through, and we're like, oh, thank God we had another one.
Right.
So I like to use
exactly.
Yep. Go ahead.
I remember that situation coming up, guys, where you had a big fish on the line and you were hoping that was going to land, but for whatever reason it didn't land, and you guys were okay because you had 4 other leads right behind it. So it wasn't a panic like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Right. And I think that's incredibly important. What did you have, Joel?
Yeah, I was going to say, Brad, that was, I'm definitely in the same spot. I slip up all the time on this, and you realize it the most when you're you've got this, a couple leads even sometimes where it's like, oh, you don't even have another meeting for another 4 to 6 weeks, and then you get to the end of the 4 to 6 weeks and you realize, oh, you know what, they aren't a fan of your pricing, and your pricing is what your pricing is, and then it doesn't work out, and then it's like, man, I just wasted 2 months between these meetings and I don't have anything left. I guess my question for Martha is like, how do you guys stay motivated all the time to like constantly going out and like, especially, I know we all experience the rejections where it's like, oh, this is gonna be perfect, they're gonna love it, and then they just like don't go for it for whatever reason that's out of your control. But like constantly staying motivated to go out and search for more leads and bring in new in. How do you guys do that?
I think in my opinion, the less I make it personal, the better I am, because it's, I wasn't for them. It wasn't time for them. It was, we tried this one deal with a construction company, and it did not go through. And I was like, okay, it's really not personal. And, I was lucky that with my past career in tennis, teaching tennis, I was able to basically pick and choose who I wanted to teach. And I was like, okay, I need to feel like that because I know what I'm doing. So yeah, the less you take it personal, the better. It's not their time, it's not.
And what's interesting is that it's a whole lot easier not to take it personal when you're not desperate, when you have options, right? Like, okay, that didn't land, no problem. All right, when you guys are ready, we'll come back to it, right? And then you guys go on and handle other stuff. It's crazy how it works out that people can feel that, and how much easier it is to land a deal when there's not that desperation of, I have to land you as a client.
Right.
And having that pipeline is huge. Do we have questions from the audience, Mark?
Yes, we have a lot of questions, and they're more or less the same. So I think you can probably answer like 5 people's questions with one answer.
Okay.
Everyone is clamoring to know, what is your system, written or digital, to keep track of your pipeline?
Excel spreadsheets work really well.
Any
You just make,
Excel template, you got this, especially
Yeah.
if you can turn it into a pie chart.
yeah, I do one every month. Like again, I learned from what David was doing we were doing it every week, but every month I put together November, and then this is what's happening right now. These are the deals that we're actually working on, that we're doing videos for. These are the ones that have said yes, that have contracted, that we haven't started. So like I said in the beginning, the more you see it on paper, the more you go like, oh, okay, I got some here. I don't have that many here. I need to fill out this thing. It's the more visual you are, the more you know where you're going.
And I think these kinds of whatever software you get, if you get any kind of CRM, whether you're just doing it on an Excel spreadsheet or you actually go out and pay for it, those things are kind of personal. I've always found that any kind of customer management software is something that I have to, it's not something I can get off the shelf. It has to grow and morph with the business or the organization. That's just a personal insight I've had for me.
Yeah, that's why we just have our own personal spreadsheet with lots of columns.
There you go. What other questions we got? That was a good question then.
This is a good question from Dom. He says, to get all these leads in your pipeline, how many one-on-ones are you doing and how many people are you reaching out to after networking events?
Oh my God.
I think so the networking events that we go to, we've kind of figured out which ones are good versus which ones not so much. So when we walk into a networking event, we kind of know that we're going to get something out of it, if it's even just a conversation with the individual there. But usually we get about minimally one-on-one.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have a standard formulas for our discovery meeting, you know, based off of David's work. And
one thing that David has stressed out from the very beginning, it is not what you know, is who knows you. And usually when you start paying the membership price for this networking groups, then you find people that have more money. So there is one business club that we belong to where, you know, you don't smell the air of desperation that you smell in a lot of this networking,
smaller networking organizations.
So yeah, it makes sense to spend the money in something that, you know, people are going to refer you to.
And I'm sure many of you've heard about in terms of networking, and David touched upon it. And that's just go there with the intended purpose of just meeting somebody. Don't go there with the intention of just to sell something. Because at the end of the day, because people can tell. I mean, people have a pretty good spidey sense about that. So, you know, if you're just going and if you're being genuine, and if they just ask you and they find out you're in the video business, that's going to start a conversation, because this industry is so hot right now that everybody wants to know and understand about video. Even if they have no intention of using video in their business, it's always a conversation starter.
Go watch the training that we did on turning one-on-ones into leads. It's in module 8. That'll help you out. It's easy to set up the one-on-ones, and Dom, you should be having as many one-on-ones as possible. If you have time in your schedule and your calendar where you're not doing anything, set up a one-on-one, go and meet people. It's incredibly important. Those will always turn into leads. Let's do one more question for these ladies, and then we'll move on over to Austen. I think Joel has a question.
I do. And it's one that I get asked often as a digital marketer. So I'm curious to know your answers as well. Are you running ads for your own business from the production side of it, as well as the marketing side? And if so, what does that look like?
Nope. To be honest, not because we don't want to, but because we haven't put the time into it. We're trying to get good at the networking, at the organic, you know, get to know us, but that's our next step. We need to, and we will be reaching out to you because we want someone that knows what they're doing. Yeah. But no, that is a big part of you should have that going.
What's the old cliche about the cobbler's shoes or something?
I know
that they're the ones that, you know, the cobbler's children's shoes are the ones that are always the worst. Yep. So, you know, because we're always taking care of other people, you know, and which is silly. I mean, we should be taking care of ourselves first. So maybe that's a lesson for all of us here.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good question. Okay. So, ladies, I'm sure there's a lot of questions that we didn't get to in the Facebook group. So if you have time and you can answer those, it'd be awesome. But just go out, guys, and try to do what these ladies have done. If you have a stacked sales pipeline, it makes life so much easier. And they've been able to accomplish that through networking, getting out, meeting people, and following up on those leads, which is, it sounds pretty basic, but so many of us struggle with it. But these ladies have figured it out. So thank you so much, Chantel and Martha, for sharing. That's awesome stuff. Okay, let's go over to Austen. What's going on, Austen? How are you, brother?
Okay, there we go. I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me. I mean, I'm enjoying just listening to like everybody's different strategies and what you guys bring to your Real Deal Strategy Club. Because I mean, obviously, I know we're probably going to jump into it a little bit, but my approach and how I built my business is a little bit different. You know, it's been a little bit more like a homeschooling, teaching myself as I go kind of thing. So yeah, no, I'm excited to talk about it. So.
Yeah, no, it's and that's part of the question that I had for you. But why don't you go to introduce yourself? I have a feeling that the majority of the people in our club know who you are, just because of the reputation that precedes you. But go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit about what you do, and then I'll ask my question.
Yeah. So, I mean, first and foremost, I'm a filmmaker, probably mostly known for product videos, but ironically, I've only been doing product videos for 2 years now. I ran my own production company for like the last, I always say like 5 years, but it's probably, I'm getting older. So it's probably 6 years now. So, and pretty much like the first 2 years was just trial by fire, you know, sink or swim kind of situation, and just accidentally stumbling upon things and seeing things that worked kind of thing. Because unfortunately, you know, like a course like this wasn't around back when I started. So, you know, I was just kind of just stumbling along, trying to figure everything out. But yeah, I mean, so more recently, I do product videos. I mean, that's what I focus on just because of COVID. I just so happened I was in the right place at the right time. I started getting into product videos because I was working all around the world, like filming for different companies, and I was getting kind of exhausted with traveling. And I'd see like those beautiful perfume ads, like in the airports, and I was like, oh, that'd be so cool. Why can't I do that from home? And with my mentality, since I built my own business, and kind of my whole idea was like, you know what, we can do what these big productions do from home kind of thing. I was like, I'm just going to start. I'm going to teach myself. So I went on to YouTube, learned as much as I could, and then taught myself. And then my first like video came out right before COVID happened. So kind of like right place, right time with that, you know. And then by then I was already making my third or fourth video. So, I didn't wait around for like the first one to be successful. The first one I think didn't do great, but I just kept making them because I enjoyed it. And that was the only way that I knew how to get clients, was just making content in my free time and putting it out there kind of thing. So.
Love it. I love it. Okay. So here's my question. My question for you is around mindset. Because I did a little research on you. I know you a little bit. So I knew that you ran your production company. I knew you were traveling a lot. And then obviously you made the pivot, partly because you wanted to, but partly because of the circumstances with COVID. But what mindset do you have to be in, one, to have the courage to pivot away from something that you're already comfortable and successful doing to try something else? And two, what mindset do you have to say, I am going to become the best in the business at this? And I think a lot of us feel like you're the gold standard. Obviously, you teach it now. You've gotten to that level where you can teach what you know. But like at the beginning, what did you have to tell yourself to be like, I'm going to sit here until I get it right in the best possible way? Like, how did you pivot? How did you get your mind right to do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it kind of just comes a little bit from probably even before filmmaking. That's a hard thing to say, because I don't know, like, I mean, I'm only myself, so I don't really know how other people think, but a little bit of it, it's just about drive and learning and understanding that failing is going to happen constantly, and to kind of just ignore that. It sucks. I mean, it still affects me, but I keep going and I keep learning and I keep trying. I mean, the first 5 or 6 product videos that I made, nobody's ever seen and nobody will ever see. But my whole thought process and strategy is if I had free time, I love filmmaking and that is my passion. So if I had free time and I didn't have clients, all I knew what to do was just make my own videos. I'm like, why would I sit around and wait? And I didn't have any. That was my only kind of marketing strategy that I had, and I knew that I could put stuff out onto social media. And I mean, my idea was never to become the best, nor do I think I'm the best in product videos. But yeah, I mean, it just wanting to create cool stuff is kind of the drive on that. And then just my biggest drive, and I think why I love filmmaking the most, is because there's a never-ending growth that you can have comparatively to a lot of jobs. Whenever I imagined other jobs, I'd always see a dead end. Like, you could only excel to a certain point. You could only get raises to a certain point. And with this, and with the way that social media and everything is, it's pretty much endless of where I could go with, if I want to put in the work, it's endless on where I can go and how successful I want to be. Like, you can climb to the top of the world, obviously, maybe not like president, but you know what I mean? So, but there's just so many different avenues that I can take it. And I just thought that was something, as a person that gets really bored easily, I thought that was a great kind of job opportunity to have, because I can take it in any direction I want, any interest I want. So exactly when I was getting tired of doing, travel marketing films, because I was just tired of being on planes, then I decided, I was like, hey, I want to do this. And obviously, a lot of trying to do any different type of filmmaking is a whole different process and a whole different learning process. And so just like how I taught myself how to film, I wasn't really scared to really jump into that and try it, because I had nothing to lose. It just happened a little bit faster because I lost all my work right at the beginning of COVID, so it was kind of a jump start. And at that point, I just had so much more free time. And I think for the first 6 months of COVID, I actually looked back because I thought I was doing a lot better than I was. But in the first 6 months of COVID, when I was making those product videos, I wasn't making any money whatsoever. And people kept telling me, they're like, this is so stupid that you're doing videos for free on YouTube and stuff like that, or making things. You should never do work for free. And I've never had that mentality, because I knew I'd proven how successful that was when I built my production company the first time and was able to make money, because I just put myself out there and stuff. And if I didn't, obviously, then I want to be as successful as I was now if I didn't make all that content for free kind of thing. So yeah.
I love it. And guys, remember this. I'm not a fan of doing stuff for free. I don't, right? And I don't teach to do stuff for free, but that doesn't mean that my way is 100% right and that Austen's way is 100% wrong, because that's not it at all. It's possible to do it either way. And he's proven that. I've proven that on my end. But the fact that he was able to kind of pivot, go into a new niche or a new type of video and create an extremely successful business on his end, and then also be able to teach it, proves it as well. So I'm going to stop there. Let's open it up to questions from the panel. And then I'm sure we're going to have several questions from the audience. Let's go over to Brad first. Which question, brother?
Actually, I kind of wanted to build off what he said there. He talked about how, you worked for free doing a lot of the stuff, and a lot of people kind of tell you never work for free. I am so right behind you with the work for free thing if you need to. I feel like the biggest problem with people who expect to be paid, video production is super valuable and you should absolutely pay for it. But at the same time, if you've got a lot of value you think you can bring and you're really passionate about it, being able to do that for free, that's exactly when you're actually going to pass your competition, because they won't get out of bed or they won't pick up that conversation because they don't think it's worth their time. And that's when, the real magic starts to happen. I can't tell you how many $5,000-$6,000 weddings I booked because I offered to do one wedding for $400 because the couple absolutely had no options and I wasn't doing anything that weekend. And it's changed the trajectory and growth of my wedding business. So my question for you, number one, what did you do before filmmaking? You mentioned that you've only been in this for a few years. I'm kind of curious what you did before this to actually kind of have the confidence to go and do everything that you've done, because you kind of have shifted the expectation of product videos.
Yeah. So, I just came out of college actually. And when I came out of college, it was kind of right when the recession was happening in 2015. And luckily, really, I was lucky that nobody wanted to hire me, because when I imagined myself in, and nothing against people that have, you know, their corporate job or anything like that, corporate sales job or anything like that. I just, when I imagine myself in that, I'm like, okay, in a few months, could I do it? I'm like, yeah, maybe like 1 month, 2 months. But anytime I got to maybe 5 months or half a year, I'm like, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And that pretty much drove me that I had no other choice, because I didn't really feel like personally, like with my mindset and like who I am, I just didn't think I could fit anywhere else in the world. I felt pretty lost. It was actually a pretty depressing time for me. But that gave me the strength to, you know, go after it, because it's like, why the hell not? I have no other options in my mind. It was either like I do this, or like there's no point in me being around on, you know, or wanting to do that for the rest of my life kind of thing. So yeah. Not to make it dark, sorry. But yeah, that was
Yeah, geez,
To
dude.
lighten the mood there.
Sorry,
Hey,
sorry,
second
but,
question.
sorry.
Where'd you get your leather jacket, by the way?
Oh, that's a good question. I might have to yell at my fiance, because not yell, but ask her, hey babe, where did I get my leather jacket? Macy's. Got it at Macy's.
Got it.
She's like, I
Drink beer,
thought you guys were
get
talking
leather
about
jacket.
videos. Why are we talking about my jacket?
This is my first leather jacket. I didn't think I was confident enough to do it, but then I put it on and I was like, you
Oh,
know
you
what?
got it.
I like this, and I wear it quite a bit now. So
You
and
got
it's a fake, you know, it's fake, so it's not actually two jackets kind of thing. I'm liking it.
Works.
Good
10 out of 10.
stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's go over to Joel, and then we'll open it up to questions for Facebook.
I was gonna say, man, you're making yourself way too human right now. I would have never known this is your first time in a leather jacket until this moment.
I know.
No,
I've been
so
wearing
yeah. So I mean, I remember the first, and this may sound weird, you know, but I remember the first Austen Paul video I watched was the Kentucky Best bourbon commercial, and I don't even know if that was a paid gig or not, but I remember sitting there watching this and being like, pardon my French, bullshit. Like there's no way he did this with the equipment that he's saying. And then I'm watching even more, and then the I think it was like Almanac beer company beer commercial you did with the astronaut and all that, which actually I probably watched about 15 times through, trying to do something similar for that cannabis company that I was working with. But I remember sitting there thinking, like, man, this is different. Like this, how is he able to accomplish this with, you know, a TV and, you know, some basic green screening and the equipment that he's using? And this seems kind of like next level stuff. So I have to ask, like, where you mentioned like spending, you know, hours on YouTube, you know, trying to figure stuff out. Like who is your inspiration? Like who did you watch to get to where you are now with like the level of execution on these product videos?
Great question.
Yeah, that is a good question, and probably going to be a really bummer of an answer, because I honestly, I try to look up. So the reason why I started making the tutorials in the first place is because I typed in like product video tutorials and nothing came up, but product photography tutorials came up. And so I just started watching whoever and whomever to kind of get a basic understanding of it. And then I had to take that and kind of reverse engineer it for filmmaking, because there's a lot of different things that you have to do for filmmaking. And then from that, a lot of it was just trial and error, to be like, okay, well, the technique that they're saying here does not work for filmmaking, because it just leaves a hot spot that you can't remove, obviously, unless you have Photoshop. And then also the way that they're lighting the bottle with the reflector, but the reflector's showing up that like in the entire shot, that doesn't work either. So I had to come up with my own idea. And a lot of it was just, you know, taking things, small things that I knew. And once you watch enough things, it was the same thing with learning how to do After Effects. When I first looked at After Effects, it was a very daunting process, right? And I just started watching tutorial after tutorial after tutorial, and none of them had anything to do with this, like how to make a lightsaber, how to do this. But eventually, once you start doing it enough, you can start taking little pieces from like that how to make a lightsaber tutorial, and something that you learn from that that has nothing to do with lightsabers, and something from this tutorial over there, something from this tutorial, and then you start creating your own stuff kind of thing. And that's kind of the process. I think though, for product photography, the guy that I watch the most, and I think he's super talented at what he does, and it's like no BS kind of tutorials, and I hope I did not mess up his name right now, but I think it's called like Work Photo. He's a Canadian guy, and he has long hair, and he just stands there and just talks and sets up his product photography shots. They're really good. though. And so like I learned a lot of lighting techniques from him, but everything else is kind of like taking what I knew and then you know, making it into videos and then trying to make it interesting. And then with that Kentucky Best video, that was actually the first tutorial that I did. I realized right away, because I saw the comments as it started getting more and more views on it, people were so like over the moon about the shot that went through the bottle. And so in my head, I was like, okay, so the way that I can market myself is I just have to do something ridiculous and unique each time with some kind of shot or concept. And so from there, it kind of became this like never ending goal to keep always trying to one up the video with something more ridiculous. And I wasn't getting paid for any of them. So, you know, like it allowed me to be as creative as possible and allowed me to do whatever I wanted. Not saying that it was just like, oh, I woke up and then I had a perfect idea or anything like that. It was a lot of failing, pretty much just like anything in building your business. There's a lot of pitfalls, even every single day on set, even to this point, even though I know so much more than I did when I taught that first tutorial. And like I have a much better understanding of product filmmaking. I run into roadblocks. I run into like 50 to 60 roadblocks while filming every single time. It's all about problem solving, and sometimes in just trying to keep like a calm head when something goes wrong, and then realizing, okay, we might have to change everything for this video right now, just to make it work, kind of thing. And just seeing, can I make this idea work, or do I have to make it go into a different way, or like how am I going to do this? Like, so for example, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen like Steve Geralt's shot of where he has all the burger pieces that stack on top of each other. And so obviously I don't have those kind of rigs or anything. And so when I wanted to make a video like that, I wanted to create a simpler way to do it. And I had an idea of using light stands because they're air pressured and pushing down on them with string, but it just didn't look right. And so in the middle of that, an idea that I came up with was, why don't we just take a stick and stab holes through all the food, and then as we pull down, it'll get stuck on the bottom layer, and we can just remove that stick and post, kind of thing. And so, you know, it's like a puzzle, really, like trying to figure out different creative ideas and putting everything together and just building upon that. So not everything's going to work in your head. That's pretty much the moral of product filmmaking or anything in filmmaking. You can have these grandiose ideas, but you're going to run into a lot of problems, and you just have to stay calm and then try to figure out a creative way out of that situation.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, let's open it up to Facebook. I know there's several questions in there. And while those are coming in, Austen, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find your product course if they want to check it out?
Yeah, so it's super simple, productvideocourse.com. I teach pretty much everything that you're going to need to know to get the foundation of product filmmaking and really understand it. And then also to kind of open up your mind. I do teach a little bit of the business aspect. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit different than what David does, but I think it's good to have a combination. I always tell people all the time, I'm like, don't learn everything from me. I don't know everything. And I only have my point of view of what worked for me, right? And there's so many people that are so intelligent and know so much, and they all done different things to get to where they're at, right? And that's kind of like my advice in it as well. And my teaching approach and method is more not telling you what's wrong and right, but just showing you all the different ways that you can do something and really letting you decide what you like. Because in the end of the day, art is very subjective. And if you're creating it for a company or for yourself, I mean, the only way that you're going to find your voice in filmmaking is going with what you like, even if that's not what other people like. I mean, if I did what everybody else was doing, then I would still be trying to make travel videos and be like Sam Colder, right? But then I found my own voice in doing what I did because I found a passion in it, which was kind of like building these cheap little rigs at home and then trying to recreate high-end commercials with a drill and a stick. So yeah.
Good stuff. For everybody that's in our club, if you have any aspirations of being a product video strategist, there's a lot of money that you can make there, and I highly recommend that you guys go and check out Austen's course. Okay, let's go over to Facebook. What you got there, Mark?
So this one's from the free group. When a client gives you the okay to do a video for them, what are the first 3 things that you do?
Okay, so I mean, we have to backtrack a little bit because typically the client doesn't give you an okay to do the video until you've created a storyboard. And a storyboard is going to be really important. But even before I do the storyboard for a client, I am researching about the client. I'm going on to meetings with them. I have questionnaires that I ask them that I've tailored specifically that I know that are going to work to deliver the best product. And that has a lot of things about where they're going to be putting their videos, what their overall goal is, anything that has to do with their marketing and their branding of their product, which is really important, because if you don't understand the branding of their product and you decide that you're going to do something really moody and edgy, but this is like a light and bright kind of style company, it's just not going to work with their branding. And that's like a lot of things too. People, not to get sidetracked into stuff, but a lot of people love making free videos and then sending them to the companies. And they ask me all the time, they're like, why did the company not like respond, or why did they just give me a thumbs up to the video? And sometimes the case is, I mean, there can be a multitude of reasons, but a lot of the times, like I see these videos and they're good videos, but they never looked at the company's branding whatsoever. And it just doesn't fit into their marketing strategy if you don't understand their branding. And a good way to understand that is just really just going through their Instagram feed and figuring out what their branding is, right? But yeah, so the storyboard is going to be your first and most important thing that you're going to want to do, because that's what's going to save your butt if you if anything goes wrong with the client or they become a problem client, because you're not going to be able to know a client and their intentions and who they are completely. Like, you can get a better and better read on it as you go, but this is a really good way to save your butt, because once you show them the storyboard, I always tell my clients, I'm like, this is going to be like 90% accurate, because obviously paper to film is a little bit different, but what you see and what you sign off on is what you're getting. So in the end of the day, if anything goes wrong, like, they agreed upon the video that you're giving them, right? There's no surprises. You don't want to surprise your client in a bad way. Obviously, good surprises that they're like, oh my gosh, this is even better than what I expected. But you don't want to be surprising them like, this is not what we imagined whatsoever. And a storyboard is a really good way, because communication can always fall apart, and the fact that they can be imagining one thing and you can be imagining something completely different. So the reason why we do storyboards is not only to help ourselves while shooting and really understanding the video that we're going to be creating, but it's to really help the client understand and help them picture what they're going to be getting or what they're paying for. And you never do the storyboard. I mean, everybody do it their own way, but you never do the storyboard until you've been paid at least your deposit. Don't do work for free for the companies.
Wait,
So,
yeah. Don't do work for free. I'm just kidding. No,
that's
it's different. I'll just mess with you.
No, I know. But so my whole free to fee thing that I do tell people, because I know we did just bring this up, is that I don't do, and this can be different for everybody, because I know people have had success with this, but I don't do work or discounts if a company asks for it. When I do work for free, it's for my own personal like gain of something. No, the person doesn't come to me. It's just my thing that I came up with and that I'm doing. So just that's how I do my free work, just to clarify. If somebody came to me and be like, hey, can you do this for free? I'd be like, no, it doesn't work like that. So yeah.
No, good advice. And guys, that the storyboard for any type of video, make sure that they're signing off on your vision and that you guys agree on the vision. Don't create an entire video without having that vision clear, because that's just a nightmare when it doesn't come out the way that they're looking for. Okay, what else do we got from Facebook?
Austin, real quick, a lot of people want to know, what do you use for your storyboards?
I use Canva. I love Canva. I use Canva. There's a few other ones out there as well that I think are pretty good. I forgot the one off the top of my head. I can look it up really fast. That's kind of like Canva, but more for filmmaking. And that is Millinote is also a really good one. But those two, oh yeah, they're giving a thumbs up on that. Yeah. Canva and Millinote are kind of essentially like the same thing, but Canva is just a broader, I guess you could say, like there's more things that they do under Canva, because it's not just for us. It's more like a simplified version, I guess you could say, right? So there's pluses and minuses to that. I've just been using Canva for quite a while, but it's super nice. You can put GIFs in there too. So if you've done enough filmmaking, you can literally take clips and GIFs of old shots that you have to really show the client what the camera movement's going to be, what the shot's going to kind of look like, kind of thing. So yeah, GIFs. I don't know.
I'm a GIF guy.
I don't know. GIF just sounds better. GIF sounds like Giphy. I don't know. So I just go with GIF. I'm not gonna. It's too weird.
That's funny. Okay, what else have we got from Facebook? And then I see your question, Brad. I'm gonna get to you in a second.
When you say you created videos in your free time to get your content out there, how regularly were you putting content out on social media, and how long did it take to start getting recognized?
I mean, it really depends on what you consider recognized, but I mean, I guess if you want to say a following, that came, it took a while. I mean, from the get-go of creation of my product, my production company, that took quite a while. I would say a few years, but I wasn't consistently putting work out there. The first video that I actually ever created did pretty well, but that's because I knew going in that it had a good chance with the marketing that I was doing for it. And the marketing that I was doing was more organic marketing, and the fact that I came from a small town that was very prideful about their town. And I knew that if I created a video about that town, that there's a good chance that people would really like it and love to share it because they love that town so much. And so I banked on that. And my first video did pretty well, but it wasn't until 3 years later that I actually started getting growth on it. And the reality of the reason why I started getting growth was because my content was different and unique, and people weren't doing product video tutorials like I said. And then it was the right time as well, right? Like I said, I mean, COVID just started, and then lockdowns happened 2 months after I posted my first video, but I was already on my third video. And then to keep the growth going, I try to aim for 1 video a week, even though it's a crazy amount of work. So yeah, and just think about that. I mean, even if you're doing tutorials with clients' work that you're doing, you're doubling up your workload when you are doing that as well. So
Looks like Joel lost internet.
Yeah, he'll hop back on here in a second. All right, Brad, what was your question?
I was actually going to repeat what some people in the group had actually asked about, like what systems and software you use to create your storyboards. Because right now mine just look like a third grader's homework with crude drawings, and so there's no way somebody's going to pay me a lot of money because I am not an art major. So Canva, got it.
Yeah. I mean, my best advice with it too is it doesn't have to be ridiculously pretty, as long as you can convey and it's clearly conveyed to the client of what it is. I mean, your work should speak for itself, and they should kind of be able to understand if you have a good portfolio of, okay, well, obviously the storyboard doesn't look like the video, and you can explain that to them as well, but just for them to get an overall idea of what the video is going to be like, right?
And do you storyboard like 90 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, or?
So, yeah, well, I mean, so I'm never doing 90 seconds, rarely doing 30 seconds. It's usually around 15 seconds for product videos. I mean, there's only such an amount of time that you can really keep interest, but also for, social media ads and stuff like that, Instagram, Facebook, you're hitting around 15 seconds. And so, yeah, pretty much storyboarding for 15. It depends if my clients are requesting, 2 different lengths. Sometimes I'll get a 30, 15, and a 7 from clients. So it just depends, but I'm not changing the storyboard at all. What I'm doing is I'm giving the same thing. I'm just breaking it down. You're just kind of taking out like the fluff and making those different lengths. So
cool. Good stuff. All right. Do we have any more from Facebook, Mark?
Yeah. Any tips on how to stay creative?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, so one of my favorite things I like to do is I like to go on Pinterest. Pinterest is really good. There's a lot of talented product photographers on there. And if you type in that kind of stuff, you'll see a lot of different ideas. And then really the trick is just kind of opening your mind, because obviously, again, product photography is going to be different than creating a whole video, but it's just opening your mind and be like, okay, how can I elaborate on that? It's just really keeping your mind open to be inspired by anything around you. And again, I mean, I can only speak for myself and how that works, but my mind is kind of running on product filmmaking 24/7. So there's a lot of ideas that are running through my head, and it's kind of going through a checklist and be like, no. And eventually like we'll hit a match and I'm like, oh, this. And then if my gut tells me that's a good idea, then I go for it. And not every idea is a good idea. Trust me. Pretty much actually most of them are bad ideas. But that's how you learn. You fail a lot, but you just keep going and just keep trying. I mean, I think creativity comes to some people easier. I don't know, maybe not, but at least from my experience, it seems like it does. But yeah, just keep your mind open and then just really focus. If you have a set goal, just be thinking about that, looking at different commercials, and then taking those commercials and be like, okay, how can I create that from home kind of thing and stuff like that.
I love it. Good stuff. Okay, I got one more question for you, and then we'll move on over to Brad. And you can totally tell me no, Austin, if it's a no. But do you have any storyboards that maybe you could share so people could see what a storyboard looks like that you created?
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I don't want to give away too much just because like I kind of say that for people in my course, you know.
Sure.
Otherwise, if I'm sharing too much, then there's not really like an incentive for the people in the course. But I think yeah, I mean, I think there's some stuff that I could show. Like I could show like one of the boards and stuff like that, like how I build it out. But a lot of it is like, I mean, depending on how nice you want to make it, if you know a little bit about Photoshop, then you can do pretty much wonders, because that whole questionnaire that you're getting assets from your clients, and they usually have photos, and then I can Photoshop out their product, and then I can like have arrows and all that stuff and just make it look really pretty. Some of them look prettier than others. It just depends on the company I'm working with, right? So
Good stuff. Okay. Again, guys, I think that Mark put the link to Austen's course in the Facebook, right, Mark? Okay. Yeah.
That is
So if you
correct.
guys have questions about it, reach out to Austen. He's in our Facebook group, so you can ask him directly. Go to his website, check it out. Again, highly, highly recommended it from my end. So, Austen, I appreciate you being here, man, and be willing to just, share your experiences and stuff.
yeah, of course, I love filmmaking. I love talking about it, and I have the same mindset as you that I want to make sure as many people are successful at it as possible, and really raising the bar of filmmaking, because I really do believe there is a wave coming for like the bigger productions, and all of us and the skills that we're gaining is just changing the industry completely. So
Agreed. 100%. Okay, cool. Let's go over to our last person. Before I do, there's a couple things that I want to do. We're going to talk to Brad here in a second. We're going to talk about his $120,000 deal. I do want to kind of reset and make sure that if you're watching and you're not part of the Real Deal Video Strategist Club and you have questions, reach out to myself, reach out to Mark. We're happy to answer questions. Our sale is going through the end of the year. So 60% off to get in, to learn what these guys are learning and get you to the next level of your filmmaking career and really being able to be a successful entrepreneur. So yeah, hit me up. I can answer your questions. Also, just a heads up that we are having one more Powerhouse Roundtable session that is going to be on the 29th. And we've got some amazing people that are going to be on that session as well. So we're going to have Ridge Krause, who's been a part of our club for a really, really long time. He's getting to the point where he's starting to build out teams, starting to build bigger productions. I have questions about that. CM Williams has been part of our group for a while. Kind of flies under the radar a little bit, but he's doing big things, especially with going back to his previous clients and being able to pull them into bigger deals. And I want to ask him questions about that. Philip Pearson is doing some big things. Like when I talk about building a big team, which a lot of us want to do, a lot of us are solopreneurs. We're there. We do the sales, we do the discovery, we do all that stuff. We go shoot and we edit the whole thing on our own. Philip has actually gotten to the point where he's building a team and he has people on payroll. So he's scaling his business. We're going to talk to him about that. Tomas Barraza, he has come in. He made a pretty big shift in his career. He was a public speaker. Now he's transitioning over to being more of a video strategist in video production. He went through a full transition period and has started to land some really, really big clients. So I want to talk to him about that. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Joel, you and him are talking about collaborating on a deal pretty soon, right? Did Joel come back? Joel's not back yet. So yeah, I think that they're going to be collaborating pretty soon on that. So we'll talk to him about that. And then last but not least, Adam Grumbo. I think a lot of us know who Grumbo is. Phenomenal wedding videographer is usually what he puts his stuff out there. So that's how a lot of us know him. But he does a significant amount of corporate work. So we're going to talk to him about both filming and weddings and corporate as well. So that is going to be on the 29th at 7 p.m. Make sure to put that on your calendar. Bring your questions because, again, there's a lot of experience that we'll be able to pass out and end the year strong. So with that said, let's go over to our current reigning biggest deal guy in the club, Brad Preston. What's going on, Brad? How's it going, man?
Not much. I'm doing pretty good. Still a little bit on cloud nine with the project. Before I start talking about myself, though, I do want to say how much this course actually helped me get to that level where I could take on big jobs like this. And actually, on that note, Austen, I've been dying to get into your course, but I refused to do it until I got through this one. And then I found out you were going to be in this meeting and I couldn't look you in the face, so that I actually like buying your course. So I bought your course and I waited until you stopped running your discount because I feel like you deserve the full price. But I'm excited to get into that as well. Thanks, guys. So yeah, I actually, when we first closed the deal, I was only like maybe, I think 2 videos into the real deal. And the first one was just so powerful that video sales trifecta, it gave me enough grounds to stand on to come right out the gate with a golden egg, actually 3 golden eggs that I think that this client really needed in order for me to actually get their confidence to trust me on the other 90% that I think was a much harder sale, which was originally they wanted a video. And I said, I think a video is great. I think a video is what you've done in the past a lot. I think what you need is a course. I think you need a full curriculum and you need someone who knows how to film, direct, write your curriculum, implement it, advertise, and grow it. And that's a much bigger sale than just a video. That's a much bigger ask than just a video. Sure, anyone would love to have a whole production of X, Y, and Z, fill in the blank, but you know, to actually have that follow through, you need to have a lot more kind of meat behind your voice. And so the first 2 videos there in the real deal are what helped me actually get that confidence and that groundwork to get their attention up front. I'm now officially done the boot camp and I'm working my way through the different types of videos. And I've just been, this whole week, I've been like exploding with great ideas that I can't wait to get into. And I've been telling myself I need to finish this project first. And then I met Martha. And so now I have no excuse because she's killing it and I need to be a lot better about lining up my pipeline. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Let me ask you my question here. So first, this is the biggest deal you ever landed, right?
This is the biggest deal. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let me set this up even a little bit better. Prior to that, like what was the caliber and scope of the, from a price perspective of projects that you were landing before that?
So
to dollar amount.
Yeah. To give you an idea, I got into filmmaking 4 or 5 years ago. It's hard to tell with COVID. I don't know what year it is anymore. About 4 or 5 years ago, I started doing filmmaking, and my first year I did 10,000 in sales. My second year, I did 20,000 in sales. My third year, I did 30,000 in sales. And then I just hit my 4th year, and you would think, based on that trajectory, I would do about 40,000 in sales. And I've probably done, like, if I can close this last one this month, I'll have done 41,000 in this month.
Woo!
Not counting all the rest of the year. That's a 6-month retainer being paid up front because they're trying to use some of their budget for 2021. So that's a more exhausted month. But I would say on average, anywhere from 2,500 a month to about 16, 17,000 a month is where I'm sitting at right now. And that's, by the way, like that was like a whole, almost half a year. That was 6 months of my previous income. So this has not been the trajectory I've had for a long time. This is all just like explosive and new.
Okay. So here's my question. Obviously there was an exponential kind of takeoff there from where you were at to where you're at now. Mm-hmm. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think one of the biggest things that'll hold people back is the fear of actually being successful and landing that job and then having to go and do what you said you could do for $120,000. So what was your experience like coming up to that, pitching something that big, and then them saying yes? Like, what were your emotions at? Where was your confidence? Like, what did you do to make sure that you were in the right frame of mind to actually create what you said you wanted to create?
I think the best way to answer that is I got to provide a little bit of a background. I had spent the last 5-6 years working jobs that were good. They paid well and there was a nice environment. Some of them paid great, but they were terrible environments. And that whole time I was plotting how I was going to chase my dreams of running my own business and scaling my own production company and, you know, doing X, Y, and Z of all the dreams I have, which my wife says I have way too many and that I need to manage my expectations. But that whole time where I was working the jobs that I didn't see myself at for a long time, I was in some cases quite literally writing my price points and my game plan and my strategy down on the table, and basically plotting how I wanted to actually execute each of these things, breaking it down from my largest goal down to my smallest goal. What could I do that day? And then when these little opportunities started to pop up, and then eventually a big opportunity popped up, I was ready to go. I had been hungry for years, and I wasn't going to squander it. I wasn't going to chicken out, because that's all I spent my time doing, was thinking about coordinating, planning it. But more so, I knew that what I wanted to do as a production company was going to have so many moving parts. And so for the better part of 10 years, probably since I left high school, the better part of 10 years, I have been slowly trying to get a formal understanding all the way up to a mastery of several subjects: content creation, audio and sound design, communication skills, sales, advertising, marketing, understanding social media, things that I think are all just huge elements to every business I want to do. Actually, my retirement, my end goal is to open a drive-in theater. That's like a drive-in theater restaurant is what I really want to do. And to me, there's so much of that involves marketing and doing advertising to have a successful restaurant. And so that's what made me want to get into video, was learning what I wanted to do when I'm 60 and setting up micro goals so that, okay, for my 20s, I'm going to get really good at content creation. And that was the first thing that I'm focusing on. So it's all about setting large goals and working your way down into the small ones.
I love that, dude, because what you've done is you've kind of just broken it down into really small, manageable things that you can accomplish. So that way, when the opportunity lands for you to go out and pitch $120,000, it's not as daunting and overwhelming as it seems, which is awesome. Okay, cool.
And at that point, I've now had experience with the content creation piece and the curriculum writing and the sales, and I've already had Course Creator Pro for 2 years, so I know all the stuff that I need to do. Yes, I'm kind of faking it till I make it, technically, but not really, because I've been daydreaming and practicing and honing my skills on all these things for X number of years. It's just a matter of I needed someone to give me an open door.
Right. Okay. Awesome. That was my question that I have for you. So let's go ahead and open it up to the panel. If you guys have questions for Brad about his big deal or anything else for that matter, what do we got? Anybody?
This is stupid, but where did you get your microphone?
Leave it to Scott.
Sorry.
I have an extra one too. It's in a box there, so I could probably tell you what it is. Amazon. I think it was like $60. I actually had there was a deal that was supposed to go through that ended up falling through, where I was gonna build a podcast studio for this co-work. And then COVID happened, and we weren't able to kind of follow through with that. And so I got a bunch of like podcasting equipment, and so I just opened one up and used it for my own stuff. And now me and my Call of Duty squad, my COD squad, we're starting to stream a little bit. So
nice.
I figured the microphone was a nice touch.
Good stuff. Go figure. Scott was gonna pipe up eventually and ask about it.
It's not a bad microphone. Sometimes it like disconnects and then I just sound like a squeaky dolphin. So there's that, you know.
That's funny. Okay, well, let's go to Facebook. I know we got some questions in there. What are we seeing there, Mark?
Brad, Derek wants to know, we've heard about the 120K deal. What else are you working on right now?
So there's a lot of things that I'm kind of dipping into that I'm trying to close for deals, but they're still very early. Some of them I don't know if they're worth talking about just yet, but because they are so big that I don't like, I still kind of don't believe myself that I'd be able to close it, but fingers crossed I can kind of hint at some of those. The one that I am closing, which I actually mentioned to David like a week or two ago, is a friend of mine from I did martial arts for years, you know, a while ago. And one of the guys that I had met during that time, he trains Marine snipers, and he has a program where he teaches these Marines how to do marksman training, literally flying in helicopters, shooting moving targets. Like you're basically training Jason Bournes, and he wants content created. So that's super exciting. That's going to be something we're going to be getting into. We haven't really hammered down a budget or anything yet, so I don't know what to expect, but they are, I mean, they're one of the largest and oldest schools. And out there, and they're in several states. So I'm imagining the budget is going to be reasonable. But they're based in Texas. So David's going to maybe come join me on one of those.
Say when.
Yeah.
I'm in.
So I'm still waiting to hear that. But actually, this guy who runs this, I actually ran into him while I was getting coffee. And I had just watched your video talking about a roofer. And I was like, hey, I know a guy who's a roofer, which is this guy. He owns a roofing company. And so I was like ready to go with my quick pitch while he was literally getting his coffee. Like I could talk to him in those 45 seconds walking to the truck. And he was like, that's a great idea. I love it. I'd love to connect with you and set up a one-on-one, but I don't want to talk about the roofing company. I want to talk with you about rifles only. So now rifles only is going to be the one that we're working on. So, but maybe a roofing company as well. We'll see.
Say when I'll shoot the guns. How about that?
Yeah, exactly.
You can shoot the video. It'll be all right. Good stuff. Okay. What other questions we got?
How much of your time are you allocating per month to your big deal? Does it take up all your time, or do you have time for others?
No, I actually run a wedding company on the side as well. So the wedding company probably takes up most of my time, where I'm closing maybe 30 weddings a year. And some of those are just one video. Sometimes they're 5 videos. So it depends the size of that. But that's the bulk of my time. Then there's doing this project, working with this doctor and creating her course. And I personally am not doing overkill work because I was smart and took the advice of some people in this group, and I hired a team. So when I landed this job, I quit my real job, and then I hired my boss to be my curriculum writer. So she's now my go-to person that's helping us with writing all of our course content. And what's up, Landon, by the way? Love that guy. She's helping with writing all the course curriculum. And then I'm doing all the scripting and putting together the production. And we started in September. It's now December, and we are at 40% completed with filming the course, which 40% is our MVP mark, where we hope to launch for March, our MVP. Super high quality. It looks unbelievable. I'm so happy with the studio that we built. And so far, we've got a lot of explosive responses from the community as well. So now it comes up to building the back end. We got to build a website, which is going to soak up a lot of my time. Got to build our platform. We're using Kajabi, and then going into like launching. So going through our marketing phases. But altogether, I'd say maybe 15 hours a week is a good number. Maybe 20 at most.
Not bad for 120K.
No.
You know what's funny is that the bigger deals seem like they take less of your time a lot of times, and that doesn't seem like that would be the case, but that's definitely been my experience. It sounds like it's been your experience as well, Brad.
Yeah. I mean, my curriculum writer, she's spending about 30 hours a month. And then, our graphic person, someone who's doing all of our designs and some of the IT stuff, maybe 5-10 hours a month. So if I was doing all of that, I would probably be wearing all of those times whatever additional hours I would need, because I'm not good at that skill, by the way. And that's why I hire people who I think are excellent at that stuff, so that I can facilitate and focus on what I'm good at and what I enjoy.
Good stuff. All right. What else do we have from the Facebook group?
How long have you found on average the time between the discovery and signing the contract?
For this type of a deal, maybe a month. For weddings, it's like when you build a good presence and people know who you are right before you actually go in for that meeting, you can close them that day or within a couple of days. But the bigger ones, yeah, about a month. It comes down to you doing a lot of research and having a good game plan and a good strategy. So I guess it depends on who you are as a content creator. If you're not organized, you're gonna have a hard time closing that deal. It's like David says, if they are allowed to walk away from that first meeting or that second meeting, the odds of you actually closing them go down significantly. And it looks like David lost his camera.
And a lot of people want to know, Brad, how are you learning and managing the course creation process? I know you said you're in CCP. Is that your recommendation to people?
I
Get a
love
course on course
CCP.
creation.
Yeah, so Course Creator Pro has been awesome. So I've been in full-time filmmaker since like 2016. And when Parker announced that they were going to be doing Course Creator Pro, I had been thinking to myself, I would love to create something like this. And so I, like that day, I was signed up and ready to go and bought it as soon as I could. And it's a wonderful group. I would say, even if you're not somebody who's creating courses, but you're somebody who has an entrepreneurial mindset and wants to know how to make a passive income, basically teaching, that's an incredibly useful platform. Even people who are, not teaching your average topic, but this doctor that I'm working with right now, she works with kids who are on the spectrum or who have sensory difficulties. And something like that is not something that you would just create a course and run a Facebook ad on, which is, that's how a lot of us are going to market courses. This is something that needs to go to a much higher level. And that's kind of our big hurdle right now, is we're trying to make this be curriculum for grad programs at universities. And that's not something you hit with a Facebook ad. Maybe a LinkedIn if you're lucky, but it's a lot of upper echelon moving in strategy. So we're still trying to figure that out, but I think that answered your question. I kind of rambled a bit.
Good stuff. Okay. Brad, if you're able to, I'm sure we've got several more questions in the Facebook group. So if you're able to go back and answer those, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
guys, put them in there. If you can go check him out, he'll answer them. But Brad, thanks so much, dude, for sharing insight. And I hate to say this, dude, but I hope somebody eventually breaks the $120,000. Maybe it'll actually be you.
It's going to be me.
Record. There you go. There you go. Awesome stuff. Okay, cool. And then it looks like Landon just jumped on. What's going on, Landon? We can't hear you.
There we go.
There it is. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. My calendar said 5 p.m., but I guess it was 4 p.m., like my time, MST. So
yeah, you're out in Utah, right?
Yeah, that's totally my bad.
No worries, brother. You actually hopped in at the very end here. So that's cool though, because I'm sure that we have a lot of people here that wanted to hear you. But we've kind of gone to the panel. Well, let's go to fit you in, dude. Like, tell us a little bit about, I think a lot of people know who you are just because, again, just like you and Austen, your reputation precedes you, but you've been in our club for like maybe a month. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Landon, by the way. That is my real name, by the way. I don't know. I mean, everything you've seen in Full-Time Filmmaker, like that's what I've done for the past 2 years, up until actually probably about May of this year. And then I kind of took somewhat of a sabbatical, basically, from Full-Time Filmmaker, and just started doing my own thing. And it was primarily just stuff that wasn't video related. It was wrapped or cam wrap, whatever. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. We kind of transitioned to wrapped. And since then, I've just started kind of building back up my clientele, because when I was at Full-Time Filmmaker, it was really hard to do that and then also have all these clients. And so I just kind of dropped all these clients that I had. But once people, like my old clients, like realized that I wasn't doing Full-Time Filmmaker anymore, they were like, "Oh, like you're back, like we can hire you again." And it was honestly around that time that I joined the Real Deal Video Strategist Club that like all these old clients started talking to me again. And so like it was just kind of like really good timing, where suddenly I was available. And after applying some of the stuff I'd learned inside the course, I was like, I could actually make a lot more money with these clients than I had previously with them, because now I know how to like strategize and actually create like a bundle and, get everything, make the videos actually work for them, rather than just sell them an individual video and just have them figure it out on their own. So, I mean, yeah. And so since joining, I was able to close a few pretty good sized deals, and it's been amazing. It's just kind of eliminated a lot of the stress I had with leaving Full-Time Filmmaker and then kind of starting from scratch. We're kind of past that point already, which feels really good.
Awesome. So I have, and let me kind of explain what our format was here, Landon, so that you can kind of figure out what we're doing here. But I have a very specific question for you. I had a very specific question for everybody. So I'm going to ask you my question. Then we're going to open it up to the panel that's on the Zoom call to ask you some questions. And then obviously we have a whole bunch of people watching on Facebook. So I'm sure there'll be some questions coming in from Facebook. And I'm gonna kind of back this up with a bit of a story. So you joined the club, and Mark double checked this, but you joined the club the day before I got married. So I was kind of busy with all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And I remember seeing your name come through our enrollment list, and my initial reaction and thought was, this guy is hungry to grow. Most people that I know that are successful and are already doing something are never really content with the amount of success that they've found. They're always looking for that next edge. Like, what can I learn to take me to the next level? And I think when I saw your name, that was my automatic reaction. But I think a lot of our members in our club were like, what's Landon doing here? He's already there. He's already doing it. Like, he's already successful, and everybody knows who you are. So here's my question. Why did you purchase the Real Deal Video Strategist Club? And not necessarily what were you trying to learn, but why was it important for you to grow whatever skills it is that you're trying to go, and you decide to purchase a course to do that?
Yeah, it's a very valid question. I think full-time filmmaker, working internally at full-time filmmaker and then going off and doing your own thing are honestly two very different things. And so like I built a successful video business before full-time filmmaker came along, before I was brought on full-time over there. I built up my corporate and like weddings and real estate stuff. Like I just barely hit that 100K a year mark back in, what was that, 2019, I think. And so once I joined full-time filmmaker, it was just like, I didn't have to shop. I didn't have to like advertise, for video clients. And so fast forward, leaving full-time filmmaker, I was just completely out of practice. Honestly, I was like, how do I don't even know how to like get back in touch with these people. I don't know how to like get myself in a better position, because previously I was at 100K a year, but I was also extremely stressed out like most of the time. Like I had just major anxiety because it's just a lot of pressure. And I was a newlywed too. And when you're in your 20s, you stress more than you should. And so after leaving full-time filmmaker, doing my own thing, I don't know. I'm a big advocate in reinvesting in yourself, and like you're never too good to like keep learning. And I do not think that I'm better than like anyone else. I've never thought that. Like I feel like what full-time filmmaker did for me was I was able to put myself on kind of a bigger platform is all, and kind of grow my skills there. But I still knew there was like hundreds of thousands, if not a million people that were just way better at making videos than I probably was. I was just fortunate enough to be on a pretty big platform to show my work, But yeah, I think the Real Deal Video Strategist Club was just like, it was an obvious next step, because I was getting back into doing full-time freelance. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. And obviously these guys know what they're doing. There's a lot of people joining right now. Black Friday was going on. I'm like, why not, So, that's the whole reason I joined, is because I wanted to make sure I was setting myself up for success.
Good stuff. I love it. Well, we're enjoying having you in the club. Let me open it to the panel on the Zoom. What questions do you guys got for Landon?
I got a basic one. Just what are some of your favorite maybe video types or niches that you've been getting back into, like client wise?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've always loved fitness stuff. And so I just wrapped up a fitness video today for a client. Fitness, I don't know why. It's just so fun, making a fitness video. It just beats a wedding any day, in my opinion. But that's one. The stuff that I've done with Zugo, the e-bike company, has been super fun because there's a lot of creativity there. And like the kind of collaboration I did between the DJI, the R4D, and then Zugo was a really fun one because I could get paid by Zugo, but I could also get paid by DJI for doing those 2 videos and kind of bring them into one. And I had like a bigger budget to work with. I don't know, like, I don't really have like a set, genre that I'm into, but I think fitness will always be one that I'll keep pursuing, and hopefully I can stack on a few more fitness clients.
And did you mention, are you built, do you have a team already built? Like, is it more than just you already? Or like, do you have a production company, or is it just you still?
So it's just me, and then I do have an assistant that I pay to help me. He helps me Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes I switch it off. So he'll come in different days of the week. But yeah, right now it's just me. I just barely incorporated what's called Studio, STUDIIO. And that's going to be like the umbrella, like parent company that kind of houses everything. Because what I'm realizing is that if I want to like scale this to where I want it to, like to the point where I want to get, I kind of got to take my name out of the equation a little bit more, because if a business is hiring Landon Bytheway, they're going to expect Landon Bytheway, but if they hire Studio, then that kind of opens it up where it's not like I'm not, obligated to be at every shoot. So, yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. Brad, you got a question?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of conflicting advice from what we've heard from full-time filmmaker when they're trying to like grow your personal brand. And so I always felt like I was in the wrong because I didn't use my personal name when I was growing my business. And I had the same mindset. I was like, well, what if I try to sell it one day? Or what if I break my leg and I can't make it there? Like, I don't want them to feel like they've been cheaped out. So it's good to know that like somebody is also thinking the same way I'm thinking when it comes to me growing my business.
Well, I think too, like you talk to pretty much any like larger company, like a company that can actually afford to hire a videographer, they'd probably prefer to hire somebody or like a company with like not a generic name, but like, a slightly more broad name. It's like some media company as opposed to like one individual person. A lot of the time, that's not always the case. I think in full-time filmmaker, where having your own name comes in handy is when you're doing a lot of stuff that's very personable and like you're working with individuals, like for weddings, stuff like that. And so like that's where that might come in handy, but I don't know. It all comes down to personal preference for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say was kind of like what's the Landon Bytheway goal for like the next 5 years? Like you've obviously grown a ton in 5 years just from what I've witnessed. But like, where do you see your trajectory going in the next 5 years? Like what's your project that you want to be part of?
So the goal, like I have my hands in like so many things, and it's just so hard to like focus on one thing, which is like, it's what keeps me motivated, because I think for anybody starting a new business is super exciting, following that business through to the end is where it gets more challenging, and so the way that I kind of like operate and the way that like I see the next 5 years going is I have my existing businesses that are like more near like the middle to the end point where I'm trying to like push them before they can get like really, really successful. And in the meantime, I'm like starting all these little things randomly. So, I mean, the 5-year goal, for example, would be honestly just to get to a point where I'm managing stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to retire. Honestly, I'm not the type of person that could just sit back and lay on a beach. I think a lot of us probably here in the group are like that, where you enjoy what you do. That's why you're a videographer. That's why you're building your companies, because you want to do that. It's fun. But yeah, I mean, like I'm launching an app in like a month and a half. I got Wrapped that I'm working on. I've got a podcast that I'm putting out. I have equity in like a media network that I'm working on with a bunch of other guys. Like there's just like so many little things. And so who knows exactly where we'll be in 5 years, but even if in 5 years I'm still doing what I'm doing now and it's going well, I'll be perfectly happy, honestly.
Good stuff. Okay, let's open it up to Facebook. I'm sure we got some questions there. What you got, Mark?
Yeah, Alan wants to know, what advice would you give someone on organization, as in keeping track of different content and different products?
That's a good question. It's one that I could honestly talk about for a long time, but I won't. Just because I'm like a big productivity nut and just like learning about it and trying to figure out what works for me. As far as organization goes, honestly, like you just gotta plan out your weeks, your months, and your year. I don't know if I could say much more than that. I mean, you kind of just gotta, when you wake up every day, you need to know exactly what you're doing that day. Otherwise, things are going to keep getting put off more and more, and then before you know it, you're gonna you're gonna be like months behind on your work. So my biggest like life hack is just writing in a field book every day. I don't know, a lot of you probably already saw the Peter McKinnon video from like 6 months ago, where he talked about like productivity and staying organized. And basically you write down like 8 things in a day that you can do that's manageable, and you just kind of see how long you can keep that streak going. So that's essentially the system that I do. There's a lot of other little things that I've like factored into the equation, but if you have just a solid list that you write down the night before and you wake up knowing exactly what needs to get done during the day, that's the best way that I've found to just have a productive day and like make sure you're crossing everything off. Whatever companies you're working on, you're just getting everything done. So yeah.
You're muted, David.
All right. I was saying that was a good question. That was good stuff. What else we got?
Are you/your team handling the marketing and content distribution, or are the clients handling that?
So right now, the clients are handling it. That's like another leg of the business that I do want to open up to, or it's like I do want to open up so that we can offer that to clients. Right now, I do have a client that will have us do their whole website, like completely redesigning their website. So we'll do website, we'll do photos, we'll do videos for them as well. And we'll actually do email campaigns. Like the goal is, and this is also just kind of like testing the waters and seeing if we can do it really well and if the clients are happy and if it ends up being worth it for us, But yeah, I mean, the goal hopefully is that studio just turns into like a full blown, agency that handles everything. So.
Cool. What kind of questions do you ask prospective clients to see if they're a good fit?
To see if they're a good fit. To be honest, a lot of like all the clients that I've had lately are people that I've already worked with in the past. And so I just know that they're going to be a good fit. Man, I don't even know if they're going to be a good fit. I feel like usually pretty quickly once you start talking about money. Unfortunately, you can usually like pretty quickly gauge if they're going to be like easy and fun to work with, or if you're going to be banging your head against the wall a couple weeks down the line. But yeah, so I don't have a ton on that topic.
What are some of your habits for finding inspiration and staying creative?
Oh man, finding inspiration, staying creative. I think it's like the never-ending pursuit to just do something different that helps me stay creative. Like how do I explain that? Like I follow a lot of people on Instagram, a lot of random people. Most people I know personally, but there's a handful that I don't. And the only reason I follow them is because I really like their style. I like certain things that they're doing. And so I find so much inspiration and creativity through those individuals. And so I don't know, I'm just very like, I'm very careful with like who I follow and who I watch on a regular basis, because I don't want to like, I don't know how to say that. I don't want to watch like someone that I just kind of like, and then eventually my videos start looking like that. I want to watch people that I aspire to be like, so that can hopefully flow into my own, workflow and productivity.
Okay, let's go. One more question for Brad, and then we'll wrap up. Go ahead, Brad.
I was just curious, Landon, are you planning on doing any more like teaching content, whether that be, you know, like with an organization like FTF or on your own personal Instagram? Like, are you still doing any teaching stuff?
So I just started my YouTube channel about maybe it was a couple months ago, and I'm just kind of seeing where that goes. I don't really want to do like tutorials. After you do that for a long time, it just kind of get tired, and it's not like I don't enjoy it. It's a lot of work for one video, and so I'm kind of testing the waters with YouTube to see if there's something there where I can still kind of like teach some stuff here and there, but make it a little bit more vlog like. As far as like sit down tutorials on filmmaking, maybe like at some point, but it's not really like I'm not like trying to by any means. There's other stuff like I've considered putting together like a productivity course and some products, you know, along those lines of productivity, and potentially having a course where I am sitting down and I am teaching. It's a different topic, of course. But yeah, I will do probably some more little one-off videos with Full-Time Filmmaker, but I'm just doing little contracts, like, you know, there's a video that comes up, if there's like a sponsor that comes up and they think it'll be a good fit for me, they might hit me up. Like we did the Edelkrone one like a month ago. We did the DJI, a couple DJI ones. So if those come up, then yeah, I'll probably keep doing those just because they're fun, and I don't know, it's fun.
I'm glad you brought that up, because like I just bought $2,500 worth of Edelkrone products because I watched your video, and I had been like teetering on that decision. And so, you know, I need more reasons to black hole my income.
Looks like that sponsorship is really working out for them. That's awesome. Good stuff. Okay, let's do this. I want to end this conversation by reflecting on the last 12 months. We're coming up at the end of the year, so I want to go real quick, each one of you, and I want you to tell me what your biggest takeaway was from this year. The biggest thing you learned, you're taking into 2022 to grow your business. Try to keep it short because we've been on for like 2 hours, over 2 hours already. So let's just go around the house and see what you guys are feeling and thinking. Let's start with Brad. What is your biggest takeaway? What are you taking into 2022?
Oh, geez. Perseverance, organization. I don't know. I was kind of on the spot there. Sorry.
That's all right. How about I come back to you?
Okay. Yeah, give me a second.
Okay, let's go over to Scott.
Probably for me this year was just the power of being able to say no or walk away. Maybe not that happens a ton, but just really valuing the really amazing clients and holding on to that kind of thing, and actually being selective. And not, I never took everything, but I probably still took things I shouldn't have before. So I just really kind of making that a seamless experience for me, and I enjoy every job a lot more. So I think that's been my biggest thing this last year.
Good stuff. Scott, maybe me and you can do a Zoom live where we talk about saying no and being more selective. I think that's a skill that a lot of us could learn.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, I'll hit you up and we'll discuss that. Let's go over to Martha. Martha, what's your biggest takeaway?
I think it's changing the way I think, changing my mentality, thinking bigger, that I'm capable to do bigger things.
I like it. I already see you doing bigger things. I'm going to challenge you to go even bigger than you already thought. I love it. I love seeing the growth. Congratulations. Let's get back on those discovery calls right at the accountability calls right at the beginning of the year. Okay. Okay. Austen, are you still there? You might've taken off. Okay. Landon, what's your biggest takeaway, brother?
Biggest takeaway from this year going into next year.
Yep.
I mean, I'm only like, I don't know what percentage I am through the course, maybe like 20% through the course. And it's just been so eye-opening. Just the approach, basically, how important it is to be prepared for the meetings. So 2022, like taking that knowledge and moving to 2022, the goal is to hopefully automate some of that a little bit more, as much as I can. I'm planning on the website. I'm finishing it up this week, but basically in the discovery meeting, there's a lot of like base questions that you ask, to kind of get to know them and gauge what they need. I'm trying to make my website be like you land on it and a potential client lands on it and they can just go through and do a quick little survey And that way I can just launch straight from that survey, and they give me their contact information. I can call them and know almost exactly what they already want, and just get into it and hopefully lock up a deal within a meeting. And so automation right there, and then also scaling, I think, is going to be a big part of 2022. Just kind of stacking these clients on and hiring when it's time to hire.
Good stuff, man. I love it. We're all excited to see your journey, dude. I think we're all fans. So let's see what you can do in 2022. I'm sure it's going to be big.
I'm a fan of you, David.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Austin, we're going around Austin changed it up, man. Styling.
It was like
I love
Biggie
it.
Smalls.
Hey, here we go. Austin, we're just going round table. What was your biggest takeaway from 2020 or 2021? Like, and what are you taking into the new year?
Yeah, no, I'm in my comfy. These things are awesome.
Where's the product video on this thing? And the product that has to be on you. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, I mean, it wouldn't be a product video then, but yeah, I mean, I could do a commercial with myself in one. No, I just like this thing. I edit it all the time. It's so cozy. But yeah, so my biggest takeaway for 2021 is really finding that work-life balance, learning and really discovering not to get burnt out. I took on quite a bit this year, probably way more than I should have. And just learning that, I mean, as success grows, you still have to figure out how you want to scale, not scale too aggressively, because if you take on too much, I mean, whether you can handle it or not, the bottom line is it'll start to affect the product that you're delivering. So just be aware of that as you guys scale, and then just work-life balance. The rest of the year, I've kind of like just been enjoying myself and really learning not to take as many clients. So, I mean, that was my takeaway from 2021. And then you said goals for 2022. Is that what you said?
Yeah, let's hear them.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going into making films. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, that was my main goal since I first started filmmaking, and just like product filmmaking and just like commercial marketing before that, just start doing it.
Awesome. I'm excited to see it. Let us know when that's going to happen. Again, if you guys are watching, go buy his course. Even if you're not aspiring to be like all time, like that's all you're going to do is product videos. It's good to know that niche. It's good to understand it. I recommend it. So, and then let's go back to you, Brad. What do I let you speak last time. What are you taking away from 2021?
Just being super goal oriented. I'm at a point right now that I never thought I would ever, not just this year, but like I ever thought I would be where I am right now, closing such a big deal, but also just my lifestyle. I am essentially in a week paying off both mine and my wife's student loans. We have no debt. We're going to own our house in probably 2 years. And like some people will never leave their student debt, let alone just get to a point where they're so like removed of the stress and the burden of like their previous life and all the other previous decisions. And now I'm to the point where I'm like wondering where to invest. Like, should I do a SEP IRA or a Roth IRA? And like, these are the questions that I'm really excited to be struggling with these parts of my life, because I never thought I would actually get to this point. And it came down to just being really goal oriented and what I wanted to hit for my goals, and actually executing on those, but also the goals that I have for the future. So my goal for 2022 is, I want to publish this course. It's probably not going to be fully done. I'm going to obviously launch the MVP for March is what we're aiming for, but I would like to launch my own course, or at least start producing my own course. I have 2 course scripts that I've laid out, 2 outlines, but actually like executing that and launching those.
Big goals.
Big goal of mine. Yeah,
I love it. Big goals. And if you need help with the IRAs and stuff and all the retirement, go talk. My personal financial advisor, Ben Randall, he's in the club. He's in the Facebook group. So if you need help with
send him my way. Does anyone have any financial like courses as well? Send me a DM, somebody.
Send him Brad's way. But yeah, if you want to talk to Ben, just hit him up. He's in the Facebook group. Cool. He's part of the resources that we have. So if you want to talk about that, you can. Okay, guys, it's been an awesome conversation. Powerhouse Roundtable number 2 was really, really good. Awesome questions from the Facebook group. Guys, if you have time and you can go back and answer some of the questions that we were not able to get through, that'd be awesome if you could. If you can't, totally understand. But everybody here, thank you so much for being willing to share your experiences, share your knowledge, and just being awesome parts of our community. So thanks, guys. Merry Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, Happy New Year. Actually, we're going to have another one of these on the 29th, so before the end of the year. But if I don't have a chance to speak to you guys before then, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And thanks for being here. We appreciate you.
Bye, everyone.
Deuces.
Hey, everybody.
Night.
I want
Thanks.
that Snuggie.
For real.